During the Divine Blessing ceremony, what was supposed to be the Ryan family's greatest triumph went sideways in the worst way possible. A young Lucas Ryan approaches the altar holding a legendary sword, said to be from Vulcanus, the god of fire. The second that blade makes contact, the heavens themselves seem to shift, and the crowd goes dead silent. Absolutely positive they're about to witness a legendary blessing. But that's not what happens. Instead, a freaking inferno just explodes all around Lucas. His very soul gets scorched, the sword turns to dust, and Lucas just collapses completely out of it, while his sister Julia screams and his father desperately begs for answers. At the exact same time, in a totally different world, our MC is having a rough time. He's already lost his dad, and life just keeps kicking him while he's down. But he pushes through it all for his mom and his little sister. Heading home, he gets the classic isekai treatment from Truck-kun. As his world goes dark on the pavement, he manages one final desperate wish. He prays that if he gets another life, he'll finally have the strength to protect the people he cares about with his own two hands. That soul then zips out of his body and straight into Lucas's broken one. Over in Vulcanus' realm, the fire god is absolutely livid, raging about the sword being an unforgivable insult. He just scoffs, calling this new soul a piece of trash that isn't even worth the effort of incinerating a second time. But plot twist in the domain of the martial god, the spirits there have a totally different take on the situation. They see Lucas as their responsibility and blast the martial god's blessing into him like a cannon Loki going way overboard. They don't just give him the highest tier blessing, they completely shatter the old level cap. Lucas wakes up with the memories of two different lives crashing together in his head, terrified that he's going to be tossed aside as some cursed kid abandoned by the gods. Just then, Julia bursts in, wrapping him in a massive hug and sobbing that everyone was saying he was a goner for sure. Lucas gently pats her on the head, gets his breathing under control, and makes a silent promise. He's been given a second shot at this, and he's not going to waste it. He'll protect what matters no matter the cost. To make that happen, Lucas throws a look up at the sky. He's basically telling the martial god, "Aight, I'm going to need some backup here, my dude." At the exact same time, a certain demon who had been turned into a freaking statue suddenly cracks back to life. She can feel that the martial god's presence has vanished from the world. Blood starts to pour down her body as she struggles to get her power back, as realizing she's running on fumes. She's not sweating it though. In her mind, the world is basically her oyster now. Without the martial god in the picture, she and her emissaries are pretty much free to run things. Fast forward 9 years, and we find Lucas hanging out at the family estate. He's just on his way to go get his sister from her training session when, surprise, he gets jumped. A gnarly thorn vine shoots out and wraps around him, and he instantly knows who's behind this little stunt. Yup, you guessed it, it's none other than Jeremy. Jeremy Ryan is the fourth kid in the Ryan family lineup. He's a magic user who snagged a level 5 blessing for himself. This dude is pretty much Lucas's half-brother. Even Jeremy's lackey starts running his mouth, clowning on Lucas, and wondering why he hasn't been booted from the family yet. Jeremy then gets in his face, telling Lucas to stay out of the backyard because it's only for family members who can actually use magic. The punk even threatens to snap a couple of his bones just to teach him a lesson about where he's allowed to go. As the vine squeezes tighter, Lucas yells out that Jeremy's messing up because his sister is done with her magic practice, and she's on her way back right now. Lucas straight up tells him that if he doesn't want to get turned into a crispy critter, he better let go. Jeremy is visibly spooked, but he tries to play it cool, mocking Lucas for always hiding behind his big sister. He tries to puff out his chest, saying he's not afraid of a little lightning, but he can't even finish his sentence. Bam! A bolt of lightning zaps him, making him shriek in agony before he hits the deck hard. His attendant completely freaks out, and that's when Julia shows up in the distance. Julia points her magic staff right at Jeremy and warns him that if he ever messes with her brother again, she's not holding back next time. She then effortlessly uses her magic to make the vines crumble right off her brother. While Lucas gives his sister a pat on the back for a job well done, Jeremy shakily stumbles to his feet. Lucas starts clowning on the guy, telling him to take this L and learn from it, otherwise he's just going to get clapped again. Jeremy and his little sidekick dip out, but not before he throws a thread over his shoulder, promising Lucas he won't forget this humiliation. Lucas just smirks at Julia, saying she was low-key going easy on him, because Jeremy still had enough juice left to sprint away. Julia's like, "Bro, why didn't you step in? You totally could have wrecked Jeremy all by yourself." And Lucas just gives her a look, reminding her that his real power level is a need-to-know secret and only they're in on it. He even jokes around telling his sister she's got to be his bodyguard now, and Julia just grins totally down for the job. This triggers a flashback with Lucas explaining what went down the day he first woke up like 9 years ago. Apparently his dad came to see him, and Lucas was legit terrified he was about to get booted from the family. He thought he was done for, for completely failing to live, but nah, that's not what happened at all. His dad Holt, who's actually the commander of a whole night order, just pulled him into a hug thanking every god in the sky that he was okay. Being a commander means the dude is constantly deployed, always, so he barely ever gets any FaceTime with his kids back at the crib. But don't get it twisted, he's a great dad who's super invested in his son and the rest of the family. The moment Holt heard Lucas was getting into martial arts, he fired off a letter to him right away. And this letter was absolutely jam-packed with all the essential tips and info. Holt gave him a heads up that the library had some ancient texts on martial arts just collecting dust. He also made sure Lucas knew he was in his corner cheering him on. This letter basically lit a fire under Lucas, sparking a seriously wild plan. For the next 6 months, Lucas got busy digging out a secret training zone right under his bedroom, while the staff were completely clueless. They were always asking where he vanished to, and since they kept hearing digging sounds, everyone just figured some mage was practicing earth spells nearby. This secret man cave he built was split into 4 different sections. He had a place to study, a spot to train, a storage room, and a super janky bathroom. See, he blew all his cash on gear for the other sections. So for the bathroom, all he could afford was a single bathtub once the main construction was done. With his setup complete, he went full-on hermit mode, grinding away at his training every single day, completely off the radar. Part of his routine involved soaking in these special medicinal baths, which is apparently the most cracked method for leveling up your body. For 3 solid years, he based his entire training regimen on this one legendary book he found called Chaos Tempering Arts. Thanks to that library find, he's gotten so tanky that even a level 5 magic spell would just bounce right off him. He realizes his defense is pretty much dialed in, so to test his offense, Lucas decides it's time to see what he can really do. He whips out a sword and moves like a blur, landing a flurry of slashes on his training dummy before you can even blink. He's not just a sword guy either. He grabs a spear, and with some absolutely broken techniques, he just obliterates the dummy into splinters. Bro's already hit master tier with his spear skills. After showing off with that, he moves on. Next up on the agenda is his hand-to-hand combat. So for 9 years, he's been on this insane grind, constantly getting stronger, but there's this one thing that's been bugging him. From what he's read in all the martial arts manuals, once you get to a certain peak of power, you're supposed to hit a plateau like a hard wall you can't get past. The only way to shatter that limit is to achieve some kind of epic enlightenment. The problem is reaching enlightenment is next to impossible, which is why a ton of martial artists just rage quit and give up. That's the real tea on why you barely see any martial arts masters running around anymore. And that's a shame, because martial arts should be on par with magic. But Lucas, he's built different. He proves it by straight up exploding a huge sandbag. Just one punch is all it takes. Because of his non-stop dedication, his fist techniques have also hit level 5, and it's starting to look like that ceiling doesn't even exist for him. His power level just keeps climbing and climbing with zero friction. No cap, every single one of his skills is just skyrocketing. He's pretty sure this is all because he's got some kind of cheat code from the martial god himself. After wrapping up his training session, it suddenly hits Lucas. His dad is supposed to come home tonight. The whole family is actually going to have dinner together for once. So he gets cleaned up and heads over to the dining room to meet up with everyone. His dad greets him with a huge smile, pointing out it's been a long 6 months since they were last face to face. He tells Lucas to grab a seat, and our MC just strolls over like it's nothing, while Jeremy is over there absolutely seething. Holt then drops a bombshell. Allen Magic School is launching a brand new martial arts department, and as a special hookup, his old man already went ahead and submitted an application for him. Look, Holt doesn't sugarcoat it. He admits that martial arts is going to be a serious, but he's got total faith that his son can crush it, and he tells Lucas to get ready to ace the entrance exam next week. Lucas just cracks a smile and thanks his dad for the shot, but Loki, our boy, is making a solemn vow. It doesn't matter what world he gets isekai'd into, he's going to protect everything and everyone he holds dear. At the same time, though, he's trying his best to fly under the radar, because the last thing he wants is to paint a target on his back. Out of nowhere, Julia shoots her hand up, She tells her dad that she's dead set on enrolling at Allen Magic School right alongside Lucas. Holt's proud of his daughter's go-getter attitude, but he gently reminds her that she's only 11 years old. And that means she's not quite old enough to get in. But Julia hits him with a counter. The school offers an elite course, and this one has 0 age restrictions. To prove it, Julia whips out an acceptance letter from the school, basically giving her the green light for the elite track. Holt's totally blindsided by this, but then again, it clicks. Julia's insane talent must have already made waves at the school. Lucas's mom flashes a gorgeous smile, saying it looks like the Ryan family is about to produce a legendary mage. This gets a huge laugh out of Julia, while Jeremy is just sitting there, practically steaming from the ears. Their dad then wishes them both good luck, hoping they'll both pass the exam. Jeremy is absolutely salty that Lucas is getting the VIP treatment when in his eyes the dude is a total nobody. Just then his mom Jessica puts a hand on him and tells him to chill out, saying he's got nothing to stress about. After all, there's no guarantee Lucas will even make it through the exam. A week passes, and Lucas and Julia are getting ready to head out for the academy. His mom tells him to stay safe. She also promises she'll swing by for a visit once he's all settled in. Then she hands Lucas a lucky coin his father gave her. Turns out this thing is an ancient relic from the Marshall Fortune dynasty. You know, the same dynasty that united the entire world like 10,000 years back. Holt explained he snagged the coin after taking down some gnarly magical beast. On the front you can see the face of the first Emperor Mars, and the back is engraved with the legendary weapons he used to wield. The moment Lucas saw that it hit him, Mars is none other than the martial spirit god. As they're leaving, Holt makes him promise to keep that coin on him at all times. Lucas can't help but feel like he hit the jackpot. He's been blessed with an awesome family in this life, just like in his last one. Hours into their trip, the butler Forden suggests they set up camp in the next clearing. He points out that the sun's about to dip below the horizon. While they're kicking back and getting ready to eat, the butler mentions they should reach Town, where the school is by nightfall tomorrow. That is, if they get an early start in the morning. This piques Julia's interest, and she asks Forden if there's anything cool to do in Town. Forden tells her there's definitely something to look forward to, since Town is super famous. It's known for its magical dodgeball tournament every spring, and on top of that, it's a legendary foodie town. The second Julia hears this, she's practically drooling just imagining all the epic food she's gonna chow down on. But then suddenly, Lucas's spider senses go haywire. He detects 12 horses and 13 riders closing in on them, and they're moving fast, coming from about 2 kilometers out. Lucas turns to Forden and casually asks if bandits are a common problem around here, and Forden confirms they are. But he adds that the chances of actually bumping into them are pretty slim. Turns out Lucas can feel the incoming threat, all thanks to his chaos-tempering arts. His senses are now so insanely sharp that he knows without a doubt that this isn't a false alarm. He quickly scopes things out and realizes they're crazy outnumbered, so he knows he has to play this smart. Lucas pops to his feet, telling Forden they need to get ready, because some mysterious group is booking it straight for them. And they are moving at a ridiculous speed. The 2 soldiers with them are totally confused since everything's dead silent, so they just figure Lucas is messing with them. Even Forden's a bit thrown by this, but he still snatches up his sword and tells the others to get their weapons ready. Even though Forden is low-key skeptical, he figures it's way better to be safe than sorry down the line. Moments later, bandits swarm the scene, and that's when the soldiers finally get that Lucas wasn't capping. The bandit leader, with absolutely zero chill, rushes their group bragging about how they've found some fresh meat. They spot Julia and Lucas behind the soldiers and immediately lock on to them as the main prize. Forden, absolutely pissed, warns the bandits that they have no idea what happens when you mess with nobles. But the bandit leader just scoffs, saying he couldn't care less. He then orders his goons to take out the soldiers, but to leave the kids alive, so Forden and his men brace for a fight. At first, the soldiers are actually managing to hold their own against the bandit onslaught. Forden even takes the head clean off a bandit who got way too close to him and the children. Julia wants to jump in and help, but Forden shouts at her to stay back and let him handle this. Forden and his soldiers keep up the pressure, successfully driving the bandits back. But to make sure nothing goes sideways, Forden yells at Lucas to grab Julia and make a run for it. Suddenly, the soldiers get absolutely roasted by a blast of magic. It turns out the bandit leader is a frickin' mage, which completely wrecks any plan Forden had gang. Forden starts to panic for the kids' safety, screaming at Lucas to escape with Julia into the forest immediately. But in that split second of distraction, Forden gets a nasty cut across his chest from one of the bandits, which seriously nerfs his combat ability. The bandit leader then promises Forden he's going to burn him to a crisp for killing one of his boys. But Forden isn't fazed one bit. He's more than ready to lay down his life if it means protecting Lucas and Julia. Meanwhile, Lucas has already done the math and knows there's no way in hell Forden can win against these guys. Not with that mage in the mix. And even though Lucas wanted to keep his abilities on the down low, he remembers that Forden has been the kindest person to him, outside of his own parents. Because of how decent Forden has been, Lucas now basically considers the guy family. And since he's family, Lucas decides he can't just stand by and watch them get slaughtered. Lucas quickly tells Julia to go hide while he helps Forden, and she immediately follows his instructions. With Lucas now on the move, he can see that even though Forden is outnumbered, the man is still putting up a hell of a fight. Just then, Forden's stamina completely gives out, and he collapses to his knees. One of the bandits sees an opening from behind and leaps toward Forden for the kill, but his head suddenly just pops off out of nowhere. The bandits are totally shook by this, but before they can even process it, more of their buddies start losing their heads. All of them get taken out by some kind of insanely fast projectile. Nobody has a clue where these shots are coming from, but little do they know it's all Lucas, and he's low-key glad. He already upgraded his Gale Strike skill to level 4 just by messing around and sniping flying birds with stones. Thanks to all that practice, he knows that taking out a few measly level 1 bandits with a pebble is nothing but child's play. Livid that his entire crew just got wiped, in an instant the bandit leader raises his staff and fires a massive fireball right at Forden to finish him off. Forden sees the attack hurtling towards him, but he's way too exhausted to dodge, and believes some mysterious helper has arrived. He figures they're here to protect the kids so he can finally let go. Just then, Lucas appears before the fireball hits and just cancels it out, shocking Forden, who never imagined the kid was this cracked. The bandit leader is also stunned, completely baffled that his magic got shut down so easily. He thinks he still has time to fire off another shot, but Lucas is quick to let him know that's not happening. He tells him it's game over, then unleashes a devastating blow to his chest that tears him to pieces. After dropping the bandit leader, Fordan's just standing there, completely shook, trying to process what the hell he just saw. I mean, for Lucas to just clap a high-level mage like that, it's something he's never seen before, like ever. But Lucas, smooth as ever, just turns back to the old dude with a grin and is all like, "Guess I've got a knack for this fighting stuff, huh?" Just as Forden starts hyping Lucas up, they both feel this seriously creepy vibe coming from behind them. Turns out the bandit leader's corpse starts morphing into some seriously gnarly-looking monster. And yeah, this thing looks like it's got zero chill. One look at this horrifying creature, and Lucas knows he's got to end this thing, and fast. There's no way he's letting Julia lay her eyes on this nightmare fuel. Without even thinking, Lucas blitzes the monster and throws a punch, but it just tanks the hit like it's nothing. The creature immediately fires back, shooting a bunch of spikes at Lucas, making him dodge backward to stay safe. Then, in a super messed up twist, the monster starts chowing down on the dead bandits to get a power-up. Lucas is like, what even is this thing? But then he activates his all-seeing eyes and spots the insignia that's pulling its strings. Next thing he knows, the monster has beefed up into a giant beast crawling on all fours. And since punching it clearly isn't going to cut it, Lucas figures it's time for Plan B. Lucas powers up with some explosive chai, then lunges at the beast, unleashing a seriously massive blow. The attack erupts in a blinding golden light that completely vaporizes the monster, shattering whatever core was controlling it. After wiping the floor with the monster, Lucas sits down to catch his breath, and Julia immediately runs over to give her big bro a huge hug. She's gushing about how awesome he is for taking down all the bad guys. Fordan, though, is just standing there with his mind completely blown, still trying to wrap his head around what he just witnessed. Suddenly, one of the bandits' horses starts making a racket, and when they look over, they spot a girl tied up on its back. This totally catches them off guard. Meanwhile, that demon from 9 years back is leveling up, and just got an alert, letting her know that one of her lackeys just got taken out. She's kinda curious who managed to defeat her minion, but she's not gonna lose sleep over it. Right now, her main focus is getting her full power back. Back at the scene, Julia finds out the girl they rescued is named Maya Rasta. When Forden hears that last name, it rings a bell. Julia feels the same way. That's when Lucas chimes in, saying that the Rasta and Ryan families are both noble houses that live out near Dacktown. Julia's like, "Oh yeah, that's right." She then turns to Maya and, seeing tears in her eyes, asks why the bandits went after her. Maya starts to tell her story. Apparently, just a few hours ago, a bunch of bandits ambushed her carriage out of nowhere, and they wiped out all of her guards. Her maid even tried to step in and protect her, but it didn't end well for her. Maya explains that she tried telling the bandits she was a noble, but they straight up didn't care. In fact, it seems like their whole MO is kidnapping noble kids. Julia tries to calm her down, letting her know she's safe now, because all those bandits have been dealt with. Later that night, once the girls are asleep, Lucas asks Fordan for his take on Maya's story. Fordan points out that this wasn't a one-off thing. These guys are clearly career criminals. It looks like they've been targeting noble kids for a hot minute. Lucas then throws out a theory. What if a demon is backing these bandits? I mean, it's already sus that they can use magic and control corpses. Fordan tells Lucas not to sweat it, because he's going to report the whole situation to Holt. Fordan figures the Rasta family will definitely be willing to help out once they hear what happened to their daughter. Lucas then tells Fordan he's got an idea that should help them avoid any more drama down the road. The next day they finally make it to Dacktown, and Lucas immediately tells Julia that sightseeing is off the table. He wants to keep a low profile, and Lucas points out there could still be bandits lurking around, so for their own safety they should just head straight to the magic school, no detours. Julia's looking pretty down in the dumps, so Lucas has to explain that this whole situation is for her and Maya's safety. Maya is totally on board with what Lucas is saying, but Julia's still in a major funk. To cheer his sister up, Lucas promises to buy her literally anything she wants from the town's food district when they pass through. Naturally, that flips a switch, and Julia is suddenly all smiles. Maya just watches this go down, completely mind-blown by how tight these two siblings are. Fordan then suggests they roll down the window to get a better look at the town. Julia is all for it, and the second she looks out, her jaw just hits the floor at how beautiful everything is. Even Maya chimes in about how lively the place feels. Low-key Lucas agrees with them. The town's whole vibe hits different, reminding him of the city from his past life. As they cruise through the food center, Lucas makes good on his promise and gets his sister every single snack she points at, just as he promised. It isn't long before they finally pull up to the academy gates, and Fordan tells them this is as far as his ride goes. Lucas assures Fordan he doesn't need to sweat it, promising he'll keep Julia safe. Julia, full of energy, jumps in with a grin. She shouts that she's going to protect him too. Lucas just plays along, telling her he's totally counting on it. The emotional goodbye leaves Fordan with tears welling up in his eyes as he bids them farewell. Maya, on the other hand, is just glad she met them. No cap, Lucas and Julia are a seriously interesting duo. Now for some quick tea, Fordan had actually dropped a bombshell on Lucas the night before, revealing that Maya was his fiancée once upon a time. This was way back when they were kids, but the whole engagement got called off after the incident that completely nerfed Lucas's talents. So, a little background on the Allen Magic School. It's located just south of DAC Town, and is basically one of the top 3 most prestigious academies in the entire Carmina Empire. All the new students have to take a mandatory exam 1 year after they enroll. The results from that test get them sorted into different departments based on their specialties: Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, and the super exclusive Special Department. If you can grind it out at the academy for 6 years and graduate, you officially earn your mage qualification. On top of that, students who are absolutely cracked get some pretty sweet special treatment. Also, if you're a genius who passes the mage exam while you're still a student, you can graduate early, without having to stick around for the full 6 years. Meanwhile, we see Lucas and Julia hanging out at the school plaza, and Julia's feeling bummed out. Apparently, Maya left to go meet up with her family, and Julia was really hoping they'd all be taking the exam together. Lucas, however, is just relieved that Maya is back with her folks, because it means she's finally out of danger. Lucas tells Julia that if they all manage to pass, they'll be seeing each other in class every single day, so she shouldn't even trip. This is all it takes to snap Julia out of her bad mood, because deep down she knows her brother's right. While she's running around the plaza, Julia basically becomes the center of attention for everyone there. I mean, you don't see a kid that young and that cute every day. Before long, they have a run-in with Mina, who just so happens to be the vice president of the student council. Mina has this effortlessly cool vibe, and no surprise, she's immediately drawn to Julia. She crouches down and asks if Julia just tagged along with her big brother for the day. But Julia surprises her, revealing she's actually there to take the exam with him. Mina is visibly shocked to hear this. The only way a kid this young could be taking the entrance exam is if she's the prodigy who was accepted into the elite course. Mina instantly puts 2 and 2 together and asks Julia if she's from the Ryan family, which completely startles Julia. She's confused, asking Mina how on earth she knows who she is. With a sly smile, Mina just tells Julia she'll find out soon enough and suggests they follow her so she can point them toward the reception desk. Lucas is just standing there, utterly speechless that Mina didn't even acknowledge his existence. It's like she looked right through him, as if he wasn't even there. It's Julia who has to jog Mina's memory, reminding her that her brother is also trying to sign up. The realization finally hits Mina like a truck. She completely spaced on Lucas. Mina quickly whips around and nervously asks Lucas if he's dead set on taking the martial arts department exam. The second those words leave her mouth, it's like a record scratches, and every other student's head snaps in their direction. They immediately start talking trash, wondering out loud what kind of idiot chooses martial arts. One guy even jokes about how pathetic it is for someone to show up at a magic academy just to learn how to throw a punch, which low-key surprises Lucas. He can't believe he's getting looked down on even at a magic school. He gets that mages think they're hot stuff compared to martial artists. But deep down, he knows they're nothing more than a bunch of glass cannons. Lucas is beyond confident that not a single mage could last a round with him. They're all just ants he could squash without a second thought. No cap. The only reason he is even gracing this school with his presence is because his parents basically forced him to come. By now, Mina has figured out that her big mouth is the reason Lucas is getting all this heat from the other students. Trying to do some damage control, Mina tells Lucas to just follow her, since she'll be taking him right to the exam venue after registration is done. She's gonna personally lead him there. Lucas is actually a bit surprised to hear this, realizing Mina is a genuinely decent person, unlike everyone else in the room. Every single person who was just clowning on Lucas is now completely shocked to see Mina talking to him so casually. A few moments pass, and Mina asks them for their registration forms. Once that's handled, she hands both of them their official emblems. She explains that their unique examinee number is coded right into the emblem, and she makes it clear they absolutely have to be wearing it before they even think about. Turns out the whole exam is broken down into 3 different tests. The very first test involves using a magic light to measure their raw magical potential. The second part is a compatibility test. For that, they'll use spirits with different attributes to figure out which elements vibe best with each student. And the final part involves some dummy dolls. That last test is all about measuring their pure magical destructive power. Lucas then asks her if the martial arts hopefuls have to go through the same song and dance, and she confirms they do. Mina says every department uses the exact same process to keep things fair, but Lucas isn't buying that for a second. He seriously doubts fairness was on their minds. If they actually cared about being fair, they would have made a specific test just for the martial arts department. Still, Lucas isn't sweating it. He just plans on flexing a little to shatter all these students' dumb prejudices against martial arts. Shortly after they all head over to the potential measurement area, all the candidates are supposed to do is place their hands on the magic light orb. The moment Lucas touches the orb, his potential clocks in at a big fat 0. This result leaves even the examiner completely shook, because a reading like that is a phenomenon that only happens once in 1,000 years. This immediately makes Lucas the butt of every joke from all the other students watching from the sidelines. But our boy Lucas isn't worried at all, because he pretty much expected this to happen. Julia then steps up to the plate, and when she touches the light, it erupts in a brilliant purple glow, signaling a potential value of 7 out of 10. Even the examiner has to admit that Julia is easily going to be one of the top contenders among this year's batch of students. And while everyone else is losing their minds, Lucas isn't surprised in the slightest. He knows exactly what his sister is made of. In fact, he knows she's holding back, so he tells her not to, and Julia just gives him a knowing look. She then unleashes a whole lot more mana into the orb, which instantly shifts from purple to a blinding golden light, leaving everyone absolutely stunned. The examiner realizes Julia is a legit prodigy, because the last student who produced a golden light was 2 years ago, and she was way older than Julia is now. The second she's done, Julia runs straight back to her brother with a massive grin on her face. She bounces on her feet, asking him if she was amazing. Lucas just gives her a proud pat on the head. He tells her, yeah, she was seriously amazing. Lucas even hypes her up, saying she's on the fast track to becoming a legendary archmage. But while the siblings are having their moment, some random hater in the crowd starts running his mouth, calling Lucas a worthless, no-talent bum. He basically says Lucas is only known for being the brother of a total prodigy. The guy's buddy immediately slaps a hand over his mouth, telling him to shut it, because they have no idea what Julia might do if she overhears. Lucas, on the other hand, is low-key loving this because it's all part of his master plan to push Julia into the spotlight. That way he can just chill and have a normal, peaceful school life. Turns out he's been grinding for the last 3 years straight just to boost Julia's abilities. And honestly, he's just glad to see all that hard work finally paying off. After the potential tests wrap up, They're all herded over to the spirit hut for the next phase. Deep down, Lucas feels that this is the moment where his master plan really starts to pop off. The candidates are then told what's next. They're about to go through a compatibility test, and just as expected, every single spirit in the room immediately mobs Julia. The other candidates are just left completely shook. One dude who literally has a level 6 blessing from the wind god starts complaining out loud. He's salty because not a single wind spirit even glanced his way during his turn. Since Julia's basically a spirit magnet, everyone just assumes she's got compatibility with every magic element under the sun. But nah, this is all Lucas is doing. He's the one who cooked up a special mana circulation technique just for his sister. It's a custom-built skill that's been supercharging her potential from day one. Even though she's only rocking a level 2, Lucas knows she's already shown more than enough to ace this entrance exam. The examiner doesn't take long to call it. Julia's compatibility is a whopping 90%, blowing every other score out of the water. The proctor even thanks her for the incredible display. But as Julia's soaking in the praise, she turns around and sees the rest of the candidates. They're all giving her the dirtiest looks imaginable. It's too much for Julia to take, and she immediately bolts over to her brother. She tells him she's freaked out by the way everyone is staring daggers at her. Lucas just tells her that's the price of being a prodigy. You're gonna get a ton of haters. He reassures her there's nothing to be scared of and says she just needs to get used to it. Julia takes his words to heart, agreeing she needs to get stronger so she can be the one protecting him. But deep down, Lucas is still pretty worried about his sister. He figures he's got to help her toughen up and develop a thicker skin. So while everyone's gassing up Julia for her insane talent, they're also throwing shade at Lucas for being a complete nobody. Apparently, during Lucas's own compatibility test, the spirits acted like he had the plague and wouldn't go anywhere near him. However, one of the students whispers to his friend that something seriously weird went down during that test. He swears that after Lucas came out, he saw one of the fire spirits was suddenly missing an arm, and the sight totally freaked him out. His buddy just tells him he must have been seeing things since the spirits are way too small to notice something like that. There's no way he could have actually seen a tiny arm go flying. Meanwhile, Lucas is kinda shocked that someone actually caught what he did. He really didn't think anyone saw what happened. Turns out that kid wasn't capping, because here's the real story from Lucas's test. The fire spirits were giving him some serious attitude, acting all high and mighty. It was probably because the fire god had already rejected him. As Lucas was about to leave, one of the spirits actually spat on him. That little punk was holding a grudge, but Lucas taught it a lesson about arrogance real quick by flicking a pebble and straight up ripping its arm off. Once the compatibility test is over, Lucas suggests they head to the final area, and he turns to Julia. He playfully asks if she thinks she can snag first place in this next test too. Julia just smirks and tells him that first place is basically hers, unless of course he decides to actually try. Lucas can't help but smile at her confidence. He tells her not to worry. He has zero plans of going all out since his grand strategy is to have her protect him. They then arrive at the destructive power testing grounds. The whole area is lined with a bunch of metal training dummies ready for a beatdown. Lucas overhears one of the other candidates bragging about how he's gonna punch a hole straight through one of those dummies. He's dead set on making sure Julia doesn't take the top spot again, model. One of the guys points out that Julia might actually just smash the doll to pieces. But his buddy immediately shuts that down, saying there's no way that's happening. He explains that these dummies are built with some special enchanted metal and reinforced with defensive magic. Basically, they can tank any hit that isn't at least curse class, and this guy is dead certain Julia can't pull off an attack that powerful. Not at her age, no cowra. Lucas gets a better look at the dolls and has to admit they're built different, looking super sturdy. He figures this is the perfect chance to finally test out his level 6 skill. Lucas starts thinking that coming to this school was a solid move after all, since he gets to mess around with all this high-end expensive gear for free. Suddenly, Lucas overhears some students chirping at a new girl who just showed up, telling her not to cut in line. The new girl just flexes her magic and gives the main complainer a death stare with this absolutely insane aura. It's so intense that you can literally see the fear just wash over the other. Then this new girl strolls over to Julia and Lucas and hits Julia with some mental magic, scaring her so bad she immediately ducks behind Lucas for cover. She's clinging to him, saying that the new girl is terrifying. Lucas, with zero chill, just asks the girl who the hell she is, and she fires back that her name is Iowa Miranda. And yeah, she's the granddaughter of Duke Miranda. The second Lucas hears that name, it all clicks into place. Turns out the Miranda family is one of the 3 big-shot houses up in the Empire's northern territory. They're also the same clan that birthed a legendary mage way back when, which basically means Iowa is his cousin, the daughter of his uncle, Cyan Miranda. The family reunion just got real awkward. Lucas asks Iowa how old she is, and with a dead serious look, she says she's 15. Lucas tells her to chill with the death glare since they're literally cousins. Iowa is completely floored by this news, since nobody ever told her she had a cousin. Not one. So she decides to try and humiliate Lucas in front of the whole crowd, hitting him with her mental magic to make him lose his nerve. But Lucas doesn't even flinch, which totally blows her mind. He then roasts her for trying to use mental magic on family she's literally meeting for the very first time. Lucas throws some serious shade, asking her what kind of backwards education the Miranda family is even giving their kids. Iowa is shook because that was her signature move, her strongest magic, and Lucas just tanked it like it was nothing. Low-key though, Lucas is surprised she really thought some weak-sauce mind trick would work on a martial artist with an iron will. A few moments later, it's Lucas's turn to step up for his test. As soon as Lucas leaves, Iowa gets in Julia's face, telling her not to get too comfortable because she's coming for that #1 spot. When Lucas glances at the leaderboard, he sees Iowa's name sitting pretty in second place, and it all makes sense. This whole act was just her declaring war on Julia to snatch that top rank. Lucas decides he's got to step in. He just wants some peace and quiet, and he can't have Julia losing her #1 spot. So Lucas heads back over to Julia and offers her something he says is just a piece of candy. Julia, super hyped, grabs it, thinking she's about to get a sweet treat. But surprise, it's actually a medicinal pill, and it's bitter as heck. Lucas just pats her on the head and tells her it's a special magic medicine. He says it's made with some super rare ingredients and promises she'll see what it does soon enough. Right on cue, the examiner has to call Lucas again, telling him to get his butt into the test arena already. When he gets to the arena, the examiner tells Lucas to hit the doll with every ounce of magic he's got. They're going to measure the raw, destructive power to calculate his final score. Since he can't use magic, Lucas asks the examiner if he can just punch it instead. The second the other students hear this, they lose it. They start cracking up, finding it hilarious that this dude is seriously about to try the magic test with his bare fists. They all think it's some barbaric caveman stuff and start dissing martial artists in general. One of them even bets that Lucas is just going to shatter his own hand, and that'll be the end of his test. While they're all clowning on him, Julia overhears the trash talk and hits them with a death glare that makes them shut up and straighten their acts immediately. Julia is low-key fuming because Lucas had the nerve to tell her to behave at school, knowing full well she could wipe the floor with every single person there. Just then, Iowa slides over to Julia, dying to know if the rumors are true. Is Lucas really a magicless nobody? Iowa just can't wrap her head around how someone with 0 magic was able to completely shut down her mental attack. Julia just tells her straight up that yeah, her brother can't use magic, but that doesn't stop him from being a total beast. Iowa is not buying it for a second. She's convinced Julia's been completely played by her brother because there's no way some basic martial artist could do anything, even remotely impressive. But right then, a massive kaboom rips through the testing area. Everyone's heads whip around, completely shocked and wondering what the hell just happened. See, just 2 minutes before the examiner told Lucas that he could care less how he attacked the dummy. Lucas just nods, taking that in. He figures he's got more than enough juice in the tank to absolutely demolish this thing. With that, Lucas gets into his stance and then launches himself at the dummy, landing a punch with so much power that it sends the training dummy rocketing into the distance. The dummy smashes into the far wall and its head begins to glow with a brilliant golden light. When Iowa sees this, her jaw hits the floor. Lucas's speed was completely off the charts, easily on par with high-ranking wind magic. On top of that, the dummy was glowing gold, which meant his punch landed with freaking curse-class power. Even the other hopefuls watching couldn't process what they were seeing. There was just no shot. That some dude with 0 talent just wrecked a reinforced training dummy. And that's when it finally dawns on Iowa she's the only one in the room who's caught a glimpse of Lucas's true hidden strength. She can also sense that Lucas is trying to keep his power on the down low, since he isn't even flexing about what he just did. To the examiner, he just plays it cool, suggesting the dummy must have malfunctioned. The examiner, probably not wanting to deal with it, just tells Lucas he's giving him a perfect score anyway. Lucas thanks him and asks where he should dump the busted dummy. The examiner just waves him off. He tells him not to sweat it, since the thing is way too heavy to move, and they'll just use magic to clear it later. After successfully keeping his true strength under wraps, Lucas looks at the monitor and flashes a quick peace sign to his sister. He not only got a score high enough to get into the academy, but did it without revealing he's completely cracked. As the exams rolled on, everyone pretty much forgot about Lucas's insane feat of strength and got laser-focused on Julia's god-tier talent. When Julia stepped up to show her stuff, she unleashed a torrent of red lightning, which is some seriously powerful magic. It's actually the second most powerful type of lightning, right behind the legendary. The other students are completely floored by her power, with one girl even wishing she could reach Julia's level before she graduates. After her insane power display, Julia sits back down, looking a little dazed by what she just did herself. When it's time to announce her score, the examiner calls out a 9.5. Later, when Julia links up with her brother, she's buzzing about the red lightning, telling him that before the best she could ever manage was purple lightning, even when she was pushing her absolute limits. Julia keeps going on about how wild and fierce the red lightning felt, completely clueless that the little pill Lucas slipped her earlier is the real reason for her power-up. Of course, Lucas decides to keep that little tidbit to himself. Apparently in this world, both mages and martial artists have their own versions of performance enhancers. For mages, it's all about brewing potions through alchemy, but for martial artists, they use a technique called Dan refining. The thing is, magic potions always require a medium to work, while pills made by martial artists can be absorbed directly by the body for an immediate effect. It turns out that pills like these used to be super common back in the day. But after martial arts fell out of fashion, the art of Dan refinement pretty much died out with it. It's incredibly rare to find a martial artist who can craft a magic storage pill that can supercharge someone's abilities, like the one that just worked for Julia. That's because a martial artist has to be at least level 6 before they even have a chance of making a pill like that. In fact, aside from Lucas, there's only one other person in the entire empire who can create these pills. That person is the only living level 9 martial artist, Duke Red Susan, who just happens to be the Minister of Martial Affairs. It's said that even the most powerful mages have to bow their heads and practically beg Duke Red Susan for his magic pills. So, if word ever got out that Lucas can cook up these game-changing pills, all hell would break loose. Yeah, things are about to get seriously chaotic. That's exactly why this whole thing needs to stay under wraps. A little later, Lucas and Julia are chilling on a bench to catch their breath, and he lets her know that she'll finally get to crash once they get assigned to their dorms after the class placements. Speak of the devil, Mina shows up and Lucas asks what she's doing there. She tells him she's there to put up the class assignments. She then congratulates them, dropping the bomb that they both ranked #1 in the elite and the martial arts classes. Hearing this, Julia goes absolutely wild with celebration. Lucas congratulates his sister, telling her that he's going to be counting on her now. Mina then asks Julia if she's got her eye on any particular department for next year, which just leaves Julia looking confused. Without skipping a beat, Mina explains that there are 5 departments to choose from. You've got Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, and a special department. Mina clarifies that after a year, everyone gets sorted into a department based on a whole new set of tests. Julia thinks it over for a moment and figures that based on her attribute, the Wind department would be the smartest move. Mina gets incredibly excited and agrees, especially since Julia has the blessing of the Thunder God. Mina grabs Julia, shaking her with excitement, and tells her she'll be waiting in the Wind department. Lucas is pretty surprised to see the departments are already hustling to snag a top-tier talent like his sister. Mina then offers to walk Julia over to the girls' dorm. Julia says goodbye to her big bro, promising they'll see each other later. Lucas waves his sister off, telling Mina to take good care of her. Then he decides to head over to the martial arts dorm. Elsewhere, some girl named Iowa has already checked the results. She sees that Julia took first place, but she's not about to give up. She's dead set on believing that she's going to snatch that #1 spot in the years to come. A few minutes later, Lucas finally arrives at the martial arts department. And even though he wasn't expecting anything fancy, he was still totally disappointed because the building looked like a total dump. He can't believe they're expected to live in a rundown place that looks like it's about to collapse at any second. On the bright side, though, Lucas figures he'll at least be able to live in peace without anyone bothering him. Lucas steps into the building, only to immediately run into a white-haired dude who excitedly introduces himself as Kai Tier Roy. He claims he's also part of the martial arts department. After a quick handshake, Lucas just moves over to the desk to sign whatever he needs to get done. But Kai stays glued to his side, going on about how insane it was that Lucas punched the test dummy. Lucas tries to be humble about it, telling Kai it wasn't anything special, and that he just got lucky. The attendant then tells the two of them they'll be staying in room 205, which means Kai and Lucas are going to be roommates. And while Kai is totally hyped about the whole thing, Lucas is already dreading it. As they walk through the lobby, they can't believe how much of a dump this place is. They finally get to their room, only to find out they're sharing it with two other guys, Collins and Sharp. As if that wasn't bad enough, the entire room is an absolute pigsty. Kai immediately holds his nose, totally disgusted. He even almost faints when he spots a spider just dangling from the wall. Totally frustrated with everything, Kai whips out a gold coin and says he'll give it to anyone who cleans the room. Unsurprisingly, Collins and Sharp immediately jump at the offer, saying they'll take care of it. Lucas isn't shocked by this at all, since he knows Collins and Sharp are both commoners. And for them, that amount of money is a huge deal. It turns out Kai's family, the Tiroys, are actually one of the 3 great noble houses of the Empire's north. While Collins and Sharp get to work, cleaning, Kai is busy venting his frustrations, complaining about how he didn't sign up to live in a place like this. Lucas tries to calm him down, reassuring him that things will probably get better over time. I mean, considering this school's reputation, you'd expect better. Kai's kinda agreeing, but the second he lets his guard down, another spider pops up, and my guy screams like he's in a horror movie, all while whining that the dorm is basically a jail cell. Soon enough, Sharp and Collins get the place looking decent, and true to his word, Kai actually pays them for their work. Even Lucas gets a cut, and low-key he has to admit that for a stuck-up rich kid, Kai's not stingy with his cash. Right on cue, an attendant shows up with their uniforms telling them to get changed ASAP, because the entrance ceremony is about to kick off in the main hall. But when Kai sees the beat-up, grimy uniforms they were given, his blood pressure skyrockets all over again. Meanwhile, Collins and Sharp can't even complain. To them, these rags actually look pretty good. Lucas chimes in, telling Kai about a system the school has for hearing out student requests. He's pretty sure if they plead their case, there they could score some new threads. Hearing this, Kai is all for rushing to the hall to file a complaint immediately. And Lucas is just internally facepalming, thinking, bruh, this dude is gullible AF. A little later, Lucas and his roommates shuffle into the hall, rocking their garbage tier uniforms. Collins is absolutely floored by how bougie the hall is, but Kai just scoffs, saying it's nothing compared to his place. Lucas, on the other hand, is scanning the crowd for his sister. Kai clocks him looking, and points out that his sister's sitting right up front, which is where all the elite course students are posted up. Kai also spots that their uniforms are way nicer, and tells Lucas he should probably go chat with his sister before the whole thing starts, especially since the martial arts kids are stuck way in the back, miles away from the front row. But Lucas just brushes it off, saying there's no need, and they should just head back to their seats. Low-key though, Lucas is super proud to see his sister repping such a clean, high-class uniform. Once they're all settled, Lucas spots a girl sitting nearby who seems to be in the martial arts department too. Just then, the student council president, Theodore Formal, makes a grand entrance looking like an absolute boss. He's here to break down the school's point system for all the newbies. Everyone is losing their minds over how cool Theo is, mostly because he's already hit level 6 before even graduating. No cap, the dude's a certified genius. Theo kicks things off by explaining that this point system is basically the lifeblood of the entire school. We're talking magic skills, rare books, summoning magical beasts, and OP materials. Everything, even getting one-on-one time with legendary masters, can be bought with points. He goes on to say that while there are a bunch of ways to earn points, grinding them out through manual labor only gets you a pathetic 1 to 5 points an hour. So, yeah, that's a total waste of time. It's way more efficient to earn points by jumping into departmental events. He even points out that this very orientation is a goldmine for the upperclassmen to rack up points off the new kids. And just like that, it all clicks for Lucas why Mina was helping them out. Theo adds that if you manage to snag a spot on the student council, you're looking at a steady monthly paycheck of points. The president banks 500 points a month, the VP gets 200, and regular members pull in 100. To top it all off, he mentions the high-risk, high-reward method, monster hunting. Turns out there's a whole mountain range full of magical beasts right behind the school, and this place is legendary for being crawling with all kinds of monsters. Theo says if students hunt beasts up there and turn in the materials, they'll get paid out in points accordingly. The second Lucas hears this, his ears perk up. This sounds less like a mountain and more like a personal training ground built just for him. A few hours later, Lucas manages to dip out of his room, all thanks to the tranquility incense he lit earlier, which has his roommates knocked out cold. He's totally hyped to check out the magical beast mountain, but when he gets to the back of the school, he's met with a massive freaking wall. But a little wall like this isn't going to stop a guy as determined as Lucas. He clears the wall in a single bound and lands inside the magical forest with a massive grin on his face. The first creature he runs into is a horned frog, and Lucas just plays with it for a sec before effortlessly snapping its horn right off. That pretty much takes the fight right out of it. Turns out the horns from these poisonous black frogs are a hot commodity for making magic potions, and Lucas knows it. He's thinking these things have got to be worth some serious points. Lucas recently found out the school's hiding some legendary martial arts manuals, and he's got to grind for points to get his hands on them. We're talking about the same skills rumored to have been used by the actual martial god. Since he's kinda on the clock, Lucas decides to speed things up by using his OPIEs to scope out all the magical beasts in the area. Just like that, he gets a perfect read on every monster's location nearby. He spots a level 1 shell mouse, a level 2 one-eyed bat, and even a level 3 magic crest leopard, but honestly none of them stand a chance against him. Our boy just plows through them, one-shotting every monster he finds and gathering a massive haul in basically no time at all. He's feeling pretty good about cashing in these materials for points which he also needs for some Dan refining ingredients. But even so, Lucas isn't satisfied. He can't help but notice the whole forest is eerily silent. On top of that, there are barely any tracks from other beasts, which gets him thinking a real powerhouse might be nearby. Some alpha predator running the show. Lucas kicks his senses into high gear, and sure enough, he locks onto something. It's holed up in a cave, and at that very moment, the beast senses Lucas right back. Lucas is totally unfazed and immediately starts sprinting toward the cave. It's a full kilometer away, but when he arrives, he finds a level 6 Icefire wolf, and this thing looks seriously dangerous. So that explains why this creature is so territorial. It's a wolf, a natural pack leader, but our boy is a certified battle junkie, so he doesn't hesitate for a second and lunges right at it. The wolf meets his charge with a blast of ice breath, completely freezing his right arm solid. Bruh, that's not even enough to stop Lucas, who proceeds to land a massive punch right on the wolf's jaw, sending it careening through the air. Lucas is actually a little disappointed in himself. He was hoping to punch a hole straight through its body, not just send it flying. Pumped to use this wolf as a training dummy, Lucas tells it to get back up because he knows damn well this fight isn't over. The wolf struggles back to its feet and immediately unleashes a torrent of fire, completely swallowing Lucas in the inferno. It keeps the flamethrower going for a solid couple of minutes, wanting to make absolutely sure Lucas is crispy. Thinking the job is done, the wolf lifts its head and lets out a victorious howl. But before it can even finish its howl, Lucas appears right behind it. By the time the wolf clocks him, he's already closed the distance. He then slams a devastating chai-infused punch into its side, a blow so powerful it makes the wolf spit up blood. The sheer force of the impact sends the poor beast flying once again, this time even further away. The wolf is left completely winded on its back, and Lucas actually gives it props for being able to control opposing elements. He's genuinely impressed by how skillfully it wields both fire. But as Lucas is dishing out compliments, all the wolf can see is an absolute monster of a man standing over it, radiating pure terror. Despite its fear, the wolf tries to fight back, blasting a combo of ice and fire at Lucas to create a massive steam cloud. Lucas just effortlessly clears the vapor away. The second the wolf sees this, it decides to dip, but Lucas is in hot pursuit. He easily snatches its tail and starts giving it a full-on WWE smackdown. Even though he's fighting this huge magical beast, Lucas feels absolutely zero threat. In fact, the guy is having the time of his life. Lucas is already seeing this wolf as a giant pile of points just waiting to be claimed, but the wolf suddenly slams him into the wall. It hits him with a massive concussive blast. Thinking it's finally got Lucas cornered, the wolf shoots out another powerful breath of fire, but Lucas dodges the flames with ease. He then leaps right back toward the wolf. Desperate, the wolf fires off yet another blast of flames to create some distance. But this time, Lucas just walks straight through the fire like it's nothing. By powering through the flames, Lucas closes the gap between him and the wolf in an instant. Lucas then hits the wolf with a punch so absolutely brutal that it shatters the very ground beneath its feet, sending out a massive shockwave. But Lucas doesn't let up, slamming another punch right into the wolf's skull, and at this point, the wolf is getting absolutely rocked and knows it's about to get sent to the Shadow Realm if this keeps up, so it pulls its one last desperate move. It throws its paws up in the air to surrender. The wolf literally bows to Lucas before spitting out 2 cores, 1 blue and 1 red. Lucas is kinda shook by this move. See, in this world, some magical beasts are built different. They're born with a core inside them, which is basically a super rare magical battery that fuels them for their entire life. But here's the kicker. If even a single drop of human blood touches that core, the magical beast becomes permanently bound to that human. So by spitting out its cores, the wolf is basically begging Lucas to become his master. Since the wolf has completely given up Lucas figures, why not? And decides to take it on as his subordinate. Our boy knows this is a massive W because even for the most elite mages, having a level 6 magical beast as your sidekick is basically unheard of. Still, Lucas can't help but think the wolf isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, since beasts this powerful are known for their insane pride. They'd almost always choose death over ever submitting to a human. Just as the wolf wanted, Lucas slices his hand open and lets his blood drip onto the cores. They erupt in a blinding flash of light, and once the show is over, the wolf just gobbles them right back up. All of a sudden, Lucas hears a voice in his head calling him master. He's like, "Bruh, who said that?" But the wolf immediately lets him know the voice was his. It finally hits Lucas that he can actually understand what the wolf is saying now. Lucas is low-key proud of his new companion and decides to name the big guy Uru. Now that he's Uru's official owner, Lucas starts wondering if that means the whole territory now belongs to him too. He asks Uru if he's stashed away any good loot over the years, and right on cue, Uru tells him to follow. Turns out his real stash is hidden way deeper inside the cave. When Lucas gets to what he thinks is the treasure room, his jaw drops when he sees a massive pile of loot. With everything from rare pelts and bones to shine, Lucas is practically drooling. He has just hit the absolute jackpot. But then Uru is like, "Nah, this ain't even the good stuff," and leads Lucas to his actual treasure room. This one is stacked with beast cores, mostly from level 3 monsters. But what really catches his eye are 2 insane level 6 cores just sitting there. Uru then explains that he ate the other water and fire attribute cores himself, just to power up. This is a total light bulb moment for Lucas. He realizes that for a beast to level up, it has to chow down on cores from monsters that are just as strong or even stronger than itself. This means Uru had to take down at least 2 other beasts on his level, which is a seriously impressive flex. As a reward for being such a G, Lucas gives Uru some special recovery medicine that also works on magical beasts. Lucas then tells Uru to guard the loot and chill out while he gets his strength back. Uru is hyped, promising to absolutely nail his very first mission as Lucas's subordinate. The next day, Lucas rolls up to class, and even though he pulled an all-nighter, he doesn't feel tired at all. That tranquility incense is the real MVP, no cap. Pretty soon the other students start getting restless because time's ticking away, and the teacher is a total no-show for their first class. Kai is especially salty and immediately assumes the administration completely forgot to assign a teacher to the martial arts department. A moment later, some drunk-looking dude stumbles into the classroom. He introduces himself to everyone as Sigwald, revealing that he's their new homeroom teacher. When Kai gets a look at the guy, he's in total disbelief that this sloppy mess is supposed to be in charge of them. I mean, Sigwald looks like he hasn't seen a shower in weeks. Suddenly, Sigwald lets out a massive yell so loud it nearly blows Kai's eardrums out. When Lucas sees this, he figures out from Sigwald's stance and energy that this guy is at least a level 5 or 6 martial artist. Sigwald then glares at Kai and tells him nobody talks in his class unless he says so. After laying down the law, he just casually starts taking attendance like nothing happened. And during roll call, the first person to answer is none other than Tashi, the very same kid Lucas spotted at the entrance ceremony. After Sigurd finishes calling out everyone's name, he's actually pretty pleased to see a perfect attendance record. But just as he's about to kick off the lesson, he has a total oops moment and realizes he completely forgot his textbook. So he just randomly appoints Tashi as the class representative and tells her to go grab it from his research lab, leaving Tashi absolutely stunned. She's so caught off guard that she has to ask him to repeat himself just to make sure she heard him right. Sigurd confirms he's dead serious, but this totally ticks Kai off, who jumps out of his chair, arguing that the class rep should be chosen fairly. He insists it should be through a proper competition between all the qualified. Kai then immediately starts flexing, going on about his powerful family and his own incredible abilities. He's claiming all this makes him the only logical choice for class rep, when suddenly whack, Sigurd nails him in the head with a projectile. The teacher coldly reminds him about the no talking without permission rule, and as he's leaving, he gives Tashi new orders. He tells her to pass out the textbooks to the class and let them just study by themselves. Tashi is feeling herself right now. Not only did she smash the entrance exam, but she also got picked to be the class representative. She makes a silent promise to herself to use this opportunity to completely flip her destiny on its head. Meanwhile, Kai is still rubbing his now swollen dome, and Lucas mentions that something about their teacher is low-key suspicious. Kai is 100% on board with this and suggests they go full Karen and report Sigurd to the school administration. His goal is to get the guy fired, but Lucas is just chilling analyzing the whole situation. And he quickly deduces that Sigurd must have suffered some kind of gnarly injury in the past. That's the only thing that explains his weird movements, which makes Lucas wonder just how much of a beast Sigurd was before he got messed up. Lucas flat out tells Kai he has zero intention of snitching on their new teacher, because deep down, he's actually super hyped to see what kind of skills a monster like Sigurd can teach him. Fast forward a few hours, and we find Kai and Lucas posted up outside the cafeteria. Kai is on a massive rant complaining about how Sigurd just ditched them to self-study for hours on end. In Kai's book, Sigurd is a totally irresponsible teacher who doesn't even have the decency to choose a class rep properly. While Kai is raging, Lucas spots his sister Julia and gives her a sweet little pat on the head. He asks how her first class was, and Julia starts gushing about her homeroom teacher Linda, saying she's the nicest person ever. Apparently, Linda was super encouraging and was already motivating her to run for class representative next week. This just gives Kai even more ammo for his rant since everyone knows class reps are supposed to be chosen a week after enrollment. Julia is pretty surprised to hear that the martial arts class already has its representative locked in. She naturally asks Lucas if he's the one who got the spot. But Lucas just tells her that, nope, it wasn't him. Changing the topic, Lucas suggests they all hit the cafeteria for some lunch. He mentions that he heard the food there is actually pretty fire. It turns out even the school cafeteria operates on a point exchange system, and for new students who start with a grand total of 0 points, they get a one-time only chance to exchange actual cash for. But here's the catch. The exchange rate is completely different for every single department. Julia ends up with a super fancy-looking meal, which she starts devouring with a huge smile on her face. We find out that for 1 coin, kids from other departments get 100 points, but the martial arts department gets a measly 10 points. Kai can't even process this level of disrespect. He's freaking out that even the teachers are discriminating against them. One of the cafeteria teachers overhears a martial arts student complaining and coldly tells them that family status is worthless here, because at this academy points are the only thing that matters. As Kai chews on the pathetic dry bread he could afford, he comes to the conclusion that enrolling here was like signing away his basic human rights. Julia feels bad seeing how miserable Kai looks, and even offers to share some of her delicious food with him. Kai is so touched he starts bawling his eyes out, declaring that Julia is a literal angel. A moment later, Maya shows up, and Julia invites her to eat with them, but Maya reveals she already ate, so she politely tells them she's all good. Maya pops up mentioning she baked some cookies to thank Lucas for his help the other day. She asks Julia if she wants one, and Julia gets super excited, immediately grabbing a cookie. Lucas also takes one and is seriously impressed, telling Maya her baking skills are top tier and the cookies are delicious. Kai, being the absolute foodie he is, jumps in to get his share, and after one bite he declares the quality is insane. He says they're no cap on the same level as the Toro family's legendary. This leads to Kai and Maya getting acquainted, and Kai starts teasing Lucas about knowing such a beautiful girl. Bruh has absolutely no idea that he's talking to Lucas's ex-fiancée, and obviously Lucas can't just spill the tea right there. Once Maya has finished handing out cookies and leaves, Lucas can finally exhale, realizing the cafeteria is basically a magnet for his past. It's a hotspot where he's bound to run into people he knows. And just like he thought, Mina shows up pretty soon, and it's not long before Theod is also spotted making his way across the area. This dude literally flies over to the Aura farm using his fire magic. The moment Lucas sees this, he knows Theod is just a major show-off, and any shred of respect he had for the guy is completely gone. That's because, right after the entrance ceremony, he overheard that Theod can only pull off level 6 magic, because he's popping magic-enhancing meds. Lucas is minding his own business eating when he sees Sigurd dipping out of the cafeteria, and he can't help but wonder where he's off to. At the same time, the teachers are in their lounge complaining about Sigurd's trashy attitude, though a few of them feel for the guy. They know he only became this way after that major incident happened to him. Sigurd eventually walks in, joining the other teachers and the headmaster for a meeting. As soon as they're all gathered, the headmaster announces the main topic on their agenda for the day. The whole discussion is going to be about the upcoming magical beast taming tournament. It's common knowledge that the Carmina Empire gets hit with frequent magical beast attacks, so taming skills are a must-have. This has also made it a yearly tradition for all the first years at Allen Magic School to compete in the Magical Beast Taming Tournament. Julia's homeroom teacher then reports that they've got over 2,000 level 1 magical beasts prepped and ready for the event. She proposes they stick to the usual schedule and hold the tournament 6 days from now. Another teacher, Greg, chimes in saying he's cool with the 6-day timeline for the tournament, but he thinks that the martial arts students really don't need to be there. His reasoning is that they stand zero chance competing against actual magical beasts. Unsurprisingly, Sigurd completely disagrees with that take, and Greg tries to play it cool. He claims he was just trying to be considerate of the students with his suggestion, but Linda cuts him off, telling Greg that Sigurd is right. Linda lays it out for Greg as first-year students of this academy. The martial arts kids have every right to participate. A different teacher quickly backs Linda up, adding that every student deserves to be treated with equality. Hearing this makes Greg absolutely livid on the inside, because he can't process that teachers are still siding with Sigurd. He's especially pissed at Linda. Greg is convinced Linda is only defending Sigurd because she's holding out hope he can revert back to his old self. You know, back when he was a legendary level 8 powerhouse? Greg has no other option but to back down, but he's privately convinced the martial arts students are just going to have a meltdown. He figures they'll completely break down in tears the second they lay eyes on the monsters. With the rest of the faculty in agreement, the headmaster officially declares that the martial arts students will indeed be participating. After the meeting wraps up, one of the teachers pulls Linda aside to ask if she was really okay with letting the martial arts students join. They mention that low-key Greg actually had a solid point with what he said earlier. Another teacher tells Linda that while it's true martial arts demand real combat experience, they remind her that the Magical Beast Taming Tournament is notoriously harsh. Linda just smiles and tells them that someone taught her a long time ago that a coward who lacks the spirit to overcome a challenge has no business calling themselves a martial artist, and that person who taught her was Sigurd himself. Linda then adds that any student who chickens out of the tournament would probably just get kicked out of the martial arts department by him anyway. When Sigurd gets back to his class, he breaks the news to all his students about the upcoming Beast Taming Tournament. Taming Tournament, Sigurd tells the class they're ditching the books for some hands-on combat training outside. He makes it crystal clear he's going to get them all strong enough to absolutely demolish magical beasts. And right on cue, Kai starts running his mouth again, bringing up the whole class representative issue. He complains that the tournament is usually held to figure out who the class rep is going to be. Since they've already got one, he argues there's no reason for them to even bother, but Sigurd just bonks him on the head to shut him up. Lucas, on the other hand, is deep in thought about this combat training. He's low-key worried about how he's supposed to pull his punches, so he doesn't accidentally send his sparring partners flying into the next dimension. Moments later, they all assemble on the training grounds, and after watching Tashi for a bit, Lucas has to admit that Tashi is actually pretty damn strong. It hits him that he's probably the only person in the entire class who's on another level than her. This makes Lucas realize that Sigurd wasn't just messing around when he picked Tashi to be the class representative. After hours of grinding, the lunch bell finally rings, and Sigurd tells them training is officially over. Kai is thanking his lucky stars, because he's beyond stoked for a break. That's when Collins and Sharp announce their plans. They're making a run to the cafeteria, and Collins tells Kai they'll grab some food for him. Hearing this, Sharp is completely shook and asks Collins if he made yet another side deal with Kai. Kai then explains his big brain move. He gave Collins 2 coins to bring him back 2 points worth of chow. It's a classic win-win situation where Collins makes a little cash and Kai gets to hoard his points. Sharp is so salty hearing this because he would have been all over that deal if he knew about it. Collins just flashes a smile and tells Sharp he'll let him get the next one, trying to be a good friend. Low-key Lucas thinks Collins is a genius for figuring out how to make pocket money while keeping his friendship smooth. Kai then struts over to Lucas, bragging about how smart his little deal was. He even tells Lucas he should take a page out of his book, but Lucas just completely ignores him. Getting left in the dust, Kai's first instinct is to feel bad, but then he just shrugs it off, figuring Lucas has a sister who's in the super elite course. So, in Kai's mind, Lucas probably doesn't have to stress about, but Kai has no idea how wrong he is because even without Julia, our boy Lucas would never go hungry. Lucas could easily just dip into the forest, hunt down some beasts, and whip himself up a gourmet meal. As he's roasting some meat over a fire, he remembers seeing Mina trying to get all chummy with Julia again. This immediately puts Lucas on high alert, realizing he needs to keep a close eye on Mina and her shady intentions. Just then, Lucas glances over and sees Uru practically drooling over the sizzling meat on the fire. Seeing his little buddy so hungry, Lucas decides to share some with the fluffy beast. Lucas then tells Uru that once he's finished eating, it's time for them to get some sparring practice in. But don't worry, he promises to go easy on him. Uru is already shaking in his boots just thinking about it. Meanwhile, back at the Ryan family home, Holt can tell his wife Catherine is feeling down about their kids being away. Seeing how much she misses them, he suggests they go pay them a visit since he's heading to Ducktown for work anyway. Catherine is absolutely thrilled to hear this and throws her arms around her husband thanking him. In another part of town at Count Grind's estate, a group of masked noblewomen are having a secret meeting, and one of them is Holt's second wife, Jessica. The one running this whole shady operation is none other than that demon lady who's been sneakily gathering power. She offers the ladies a fancy drink, calling it the brand new Jade Dream. She tells them that the moment they drink it, their bodies will literally start to glow, but what they don't know is they're chugging her actual blood. She's fully aware that these women would sell their souls to get the legendary glass body, and she's using that desperation to her full advantage. Once they've all drank the sketchy concoction, she suggests they start the game for the day. Later on, the demon lady summons Jessica to her room for a little one-on-one. She wants to know exactly how Julia managed to walk away from that bandit attack alive. So, Jessica is spinning this wild tale, telling the lady that Julia was the one who actually wrecked the bandits, all because she got a level 7 blessing. This totally clicks for the lady. She realizes Julia must have inherited her family's special talent. But at the same time, she's like, no way. There's just no shot a level 7 could take down the bandit leader. The lady then gets real dark and asks Jessica straight up if she'd be down to off Catherine and her daughter to snag the Baroness title. Jessica is all in, immediately asking what the game plan is to make it happen. And with zero chill, the lady slaps her insignia on Jessica, basically turning her into a puppet under her complete control. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Tashi breaks the news to her class that combat training is back on the menu for the morning. You can hear the groans already. Kai and the crew are complaining about what a grind it is, with one dude saying his entire body feels like it went through a meat grinder. Another guy chimes in that he was so wrecked he couldn't even catch a wink of sleep. Tashi's like, yeah, I get it. This training is brutal, but she makes it clear it's all for the sake of leveling up their skills. So she tells them to suck it up and give it everything they've got. But over in Lucas's dorm, his roommates are surprisingly chilling totally fine. And of course they chalk it up to being built different, thinking they're just tougher than everyone else. Little do they know, the real MVP is the tranquility incense Lucas lit in their room, which is why they're feeling so fresh. Even Tashi is surprised, thinking Lucas and his roommates just have insane stamina, since they look completely unfazed. A few moments later, training kicks off and Kai gets paired up with Lucas. Kai comes at him with the usual energy, but Lucas just effortlessly shoves him backwards. The spar keeps going, and from Kai's perspective, he's totally holding his own. Bruh has no idea. Lucas is actually going super easy on him. As they're trading blows, Lucas suddenly clocks someone watching him from a distance. And yup, his spidey senses were tingling for a reason. There's an old man just chilling under a tree taking in the whole show. This dude is watching their every move. Kai sees Lucas is distracted and thinks, this is my chance, trying to land a cheap shot. But Lucas's reflexes are on another level. He dodges the punch so smoothly that Kai just eats dirt. Kai isn't having it though. He hops right back up, declaring, this ain't over until someone is crowned the winner. Lucas just shrugs, gets back in his stance, and is like, all right, bet. Turns out the old dude watching Lucas is named Otani. Later on his way back to the library, he bumps into Mina, who offers to walk with him. But he's not interested and just shuts her down. Low-key Otani has already pieced it together that Lucas is sandbagging, hiding his real power level. And because of this, Otani decides he's going to keep a close eye on our boy Lucas from now on. After what feels like forever, combat training finally wraps up. Luckily for them, Sigurd had taught them some killer massage techniques. Thanks to that clutch move, everyone's able to work out their sore muscles, and Lucas thinks this whole situation actually worked out perfectly. Now everyone's feeling better, so they'll probably forget that he and his roommates were the only ones not looking like zombies this morning. Lucas then decides it's time to build his own personal training ground, but to pull that off, he's going to need to buy a bunch of materials. Apparently the school's magic shop is stacked with rare items you can't just find anywhere. This is exclusive stuff that isn't available to your average Joe. The second Lucas steps into the shop, he's blown away by how massive it is. He's literally comparing it to a shopping mall. He starts browsing and quickly realizes the price tags are no joke. With these prices, he sees a future where he could easily burn through 100 points a month without even trying. And yeah, Julia is swimming in points, but Lucas knows he can't just be her freeloader. If her funds dry up, then things would get real ugly real fast. So, for today, Lucas decides to just stick to buying magic potions. His long-term plan is to trade in some materials he's got stashed in Uru's cave for points next time. When he gets to the counter, the attendant is completely passed out. Lucas walks up to her desk with his arms full of stuff. He has to wake her up just to tell her he's ready to check out. She groggily scans all his items. Then the lady tells him the grand total for everything is a cool 5 points. She then glances at his uniform and clocks that he's from the martial arts department. Bruh, with a 10-point spending limit, our guy is already dropping half his entire budget in one fell swoop. So, after Lucas settles the tab, he starts to head out, but as he's about to walk through the door, the lady at the counter gives him a heads up to be more careful with his spending. She tells him he's probably gonna regret being so reckless later on. But Lucas just flashes a grin, telling the lady that everything he just picked up is low-key, not even enough. He even promises that he'll be back around to cop way more stuff later. Meanwhile, the shop lady is totally baffled, wondering why Lucas is buying a boatload of potion supplies when the martial arts class doesn't even teach that stuff. She's trying to figure out what his game plan is, but ultimately just writes it off as some rich, noble kid blowing his family's cash for fun. Later, Lucas heads over to Uru's cave where he mixes up a potent brew and hops into a tub to soak up all the medicinal goodness. After he's done with his power-up bath, he notices there's still a ton of magic left in the water, and thinks it's a huge waste to just pour it out. At the same time, it's not like he can just offer someone a refreshing glass of his own used bath water right after he gets out. Lucas is trying to figure out his next move when he gets a weird vibe from behind him and quickly spins around. He turns just in time to see Uru chugging the bath water, and before he can even process it, the little guy has slurped down every last drop. At first, Lucas is completely grossed out, but then he just gives Uru a pat on the head, telling him that the water will actually give his body a serious power boost too. Uru gets super hyped thanks his master, and then immediately announces that he wants some beef. Lucas is just relieved the whole bathwater problem solved itself, and makes a mental note to trade in the materials he found in the cave for points when no one's really around. He also cooks up a plan to stash the tools he bought from the material shop somewhere close to the dorms. From there, his plan is to sneak them over to the cave under the cover of darkness. When Lucas was buying the training dummy, he effortlessly hoisted the heavy thing onto his shoulder, even when the shop attendant offered to help him move it, with magic. The teacher just waves at him, calling him a sweet boy and telling him to come back whenever he wants. Lucas has totally flown under the radar because the shop attendant just assumes he's a rich kid getting all this gear from his family. Not long after, Sigurd is seen absolutely ripping into his students for slacking off, reminding them that the taming tournament is literally the next day. He flat out tells them to drop out now if they can't handle the training. Sigurd paces around the training ground, dishing out tough advice to any student he thinks is lagging behind. He tears into Kai, telling him he's pathetic, but Kai actually talks back, saying he already beat Lucas Sharp and Collins. That little outburst just earns him a painful flick to the forehead that sends him crying straight to the ground. Sigurd then looks at Kai's roommates, telling them he's beyond disappointed that they managed to lose to a scrub like Kai. Little does he know, Sharp and Collins threw the fight for cash, and Lucas just didn't feel like causing a scene. To put an end to all the drama, Sigurd orders Tashi to spar with Kai. Kai gets all hyped up and stomps onto the training ground, telling Tashi he has zero intention of going easy on her because he's about to prove that he's the one who really deserves to be the class representative. The fight starts, and Kai immediately goes on the offensive, blindly rushing straight at Tashi like a bull. For a split second, Kai thinks he actually landed a solid hit, but to his shock, Tashi dodges his attack like it's nothing and slams a counterattack right into his stomach. Kai desperately throws a sloppy kick at her, but she just answers with a nasty counter kick to the dome that probably reset his entire brain. Kai still tries to get up and fight, but Tashi shows him he's not even in her league by sending him flying into a wall with a single palm strike. Seeing how effortlessly Tashi handled him, the other students finally get why Sigurd picked her to be the class rep in the first place. Sigurd then reminds the class that they better give it their all, because magical beasts aren't going to show them any mercy. On the sidelines, Lucas has already broken down the entire fight, and realizes Kai went full throttle from the get-go with zero defense. That was the exact opening Tashi used to completely dismantle him. After the spar, Tashi walks over to ask Kai if he's okay, but Kai just gives her the silent treatment, and Sigurd can tell he's absolutely seething. Sigurd then tells the students that they are all required to tame at least one magical beast during the tournament. If they fail, they're getting kicked out of the martial arts department, no questions asked. As Sigurd leaves, he orders the students to stay behind and train until nightfall. After the instructor is gone, Lucas casually walks over to Kai. And before Kai can even get a word out, Lucas tells him straight up that his defense is practically non-existent. Lucas explains that if he can just fix that one bad habit and actually start aiming for his opponent's weak spots, he'd be way stronger. Kai hits Lucas with a curveball, telling him he's got it all twisted. Turns out Kai is a massive simp for Tashi, and the reason is wild, she's the first girl to ever kick his ass. He's not just down bad, he's planning their future, gushing about how sick her moves are, and admitting he's already picked out names for their kids. Bruh! It finally clicks for Lucas that his boy is a straight-up masochist. The next day, everyone pulls up to the arena. Their jaws hit the floor seeing the sheer size of the place, making them wonder how many magical beasts were stashed in there. Kai nearly bricks it when he hears the roars from below, realizing they're standing over a pit of actual terrifying monsters. Meanwhile, Greg's students are throwing a fit salty that the martial arts kids are even allowed in the same building. They start running their mouths about the martial arts students, but Sigurd steps in and shuts them down. He basically tells them to shut up and focus on the tournament rules instead of Lucas is low-key shook to see Sigurd actually defending them for once. Kai, on the other hand, is back to whining about how nervous he is. But Lucas just tells him to chill out, promising he's got this in the bag. His pro tip, just imagine every single beast is Sigurd. When Kai gives him a confused look, Lucas doubles down, telling him to channel all his frustration with their teacher into the fight. That idea hits different for Kai. All of a sudden, he's super hyped and ready to throw down. Little do they know, Sigurd can hear every word, but surprisingly doesn't seem to care. Lucas keeps coaching Kai, saying that the low-tier, magical beasts can't even scratch his defense. If he just turtles up and plays smart, it's an easy win. Kai is all in, swearing he won't make the same dumb mistake he did when he got clapped by Tashi. Overhearing this, Sigurd has to admit that Lucas is actually cracked when it comes to giving strategic advice. A few moments later, the examiner shows up and lays down the rules. Whoever can tame 10 magical beasts gets a perfect score. End of story. He also makes it clear that if you kill a beast, you're going to lose points. The time limit is 10 minutes, and if anyone gets seriously messed up, they better scream their lungs out for a teacher. After he's done with the briefing, he officially kicks off the tournament and sends the first group of students in. Julia is the first one to enter, and she immediately clocks that the test area is sealed with a space barrier. It finally dawns on her how they managed to cram 50 magical beasts into such a small-looking building. The second she's inside, the monsters go absolutely wild, but Julia just looks thrilled to take them on. She blitzes towards the beasts and unleashes a massive wave of lightning that washes over them. Back on the outside, the examiner explains to the other students that the beasts in this tournament have been coated with a special kind of magic potion. The instant one of the beasts submits, a bright-colored smoke will erupt from its body. The teachers outside the barrier are using magic circles to monitor the situation inside, which lets them keep a real-time count of each student's tames and score them on the fly. Just 3 minutes later, Julia strolls out of the exam area, having already secured a perfect score. She immediately rushes over to Linda, who's hyping her up, completely amazed she finished the whole thing in only 3 minutes. Now that her test is done, Julia announces she wants to go check on her brother. She asks where the martial arts test is being held, and Linda tells her it's over at Venue 10. However, Linda also warns her that the martial arts students are scheduled to go last, so she might be waiting for a hot minute. Since that's the case, Julia figures it's the perfect time to go on a snack run. Meanwhile, Iowa is on the edge of his seat, practically vibrating with excitement to see if Lucas is going to pull off another insane stunt like he did back at the entrance ceremony. A whole 2 hours drag by and the martial arts students are still waiting around. Kai starts to get anxious again, however. Lucas just tells him there's nothing to stress about. He reminds him that when it comes to actual combat ability, the martial arts students are in no way weaker than any of the mage classes. Sigurd overhears this comment, gets right up out of his seat, and starts clapping for Lucas, no cap. He then tells the students they've got no reason to hang their heads. He explains that the only reason no one's been injured is because level 1 magical beasts literally can't hurt a human. Sigurd chimes in that martial artists are just built different than low-level mages when it comes to raw strength and close-quarters combat. The class is low-key shocked to see Sigurd actually giving them a pep talk. It's honestly kinda weird. Tashi also pops up, revealing that she's already done a sweep and confirmed nobody is hurt. She points out that most of them are just wiped from burning through their magic power, but then she adds something else. Turns out she managed to snag some seriously important intel. Apparently barriers are boxing in the beast's movement, which means students don't have to worry about getting swarmed. And if you feel like you're about to get wrecked, you can just bounce and go hunt for a weaker monster. Teishi reassures them that if they just manage their stamina and actually take this seriously, they're definitely going to rack up points. The students are absolutely hyped to hear this, and they immediately start cheering for their class representative. They're all calling her the best one they've ever had. On the inside, Sigurd is patting himself on the back for choosing Teishi, because it's clear he made the right call. And just then, Greg rolls up to throw shade, telling the class they can only pass by using some bottom-of-the-barrel methods. Sigurd is surprised to see Greg and asks him what the hell he's doing there, but Greg just scoffs, saying he's here for one reason. He's just letting them know the martial arts department is about to enter, and then he starts to walk off. He taunts the students on his way out, telling them to work hard because their entire department might just get deleted. He even doubles down, saying he couldn't care less if the martial arts department gets erased. In his eyes, a joke of a department like that never should have been created to begin with. Hearing this makes Lucas's blood boil because Greg is the exact same type of person who made his past life a living hell. Without a second thought, Lucas gets to his feet and tells Sigurd that he wants to be the first one in the arena. Since he was ranked number 1 during the entrance ceremony, Sigurd tells him he can let someone else go first. He says it's fine if he's nervous, but Lucas isn't having it, and insists on being the first one to step inside. Lucas guarantees he's going to put up some crazy good numbers, just to rub it in the faces of everyone who's been dissing the martial arts department. The rest of the class is totally fired up by this, and they all start cheering for Lucas, telling him to go show them what's up. Sigurd's actually impressed because his students have done a complete 180 from the timid kids they were just a moment ago. 10 minutes later, Lucas steps into the exam area, and the second he's inside, he spots a detection magic circle floating overhead. He instantly realizes that as long as he avoids that detection circle while he's on the move, the teachers will be completely blind to whatever he decides to do inside the barrier. Lucas also knows that as soon as a beast sees you as its master, your souls connect, which makes it possible to communicate. On top of that, this connection lets you temporarily borrow the beast's abilities. Back in the cave, Uru's just messing around when he feels Lucas tapping into its power, which is wild since Lucas is already leagues stronger than him. The moment Lucas cloaks himself in Uru's powerful aura, every magical beast in the area starts running for their lives. They're all convinced a high-level beast is on the hunt, which is exactly Lucas's plan to mentally break them. He's going to completely shatter their will to fight back. His whole strategy hinges on tricking them into thinking a top-tier magical beast is in their territory. Lucas is pretty happy that Uru's power is coming in clutch, making all these magical beasts submit with basically zero effort. But Lucas has zero chill. He's not stepping out until he's made every last beast in the entire venue submit to him. He also makes sure none of the magic potion's smoke can leak outside. After he makes an owl beast submit to him, Lucas casually tells it that they'll be seeing each other again later on. But deep down, the beast is practically crying, praying it never has to see Lucas again. 5 minutes pass, and Lucas still hasn't scored a single point. Kai is starting to get nervous that Lucas is going to flop, but then Julia shows up. She tells Kai not to sweat it because she knows for a fact Lucas is going to get a perfect score, just like she did. Seeing his chance, Greg immediately starts running his mouth again, making fun of the martial arts students, calling them so weak they couldn't even take down the lowest level magical beasts. Greg smugly claims this proves mages are just built different, but Julia ain't having it and tells him to stop clowning on her brother. She admits her brother can't use magic, but she insists he's still a total beast in his own right. Greg is completely shook to hear a mage defending a martial artist, and he's convinced. Linda's terrible judgment is already starting to infect her students. Greg then claps back at Julia, telling her she can argue all she wants, but at the end of the day, the scoreboard doesn't lie. Just then, an announcement crackles to life declaring Lucas has earned 1 point. Kai breathes a sigh of relief because this means Lucas won't be getting kicked out of the martial arts department. But Greg still has zero chill roasting them for celebrating a single point when the top score from his class was 5. Then out of nowhere, the announcer starts going wild. Lucas just racked up 4 more points, back-to-back putting him at 5 points total. Greg absolutely loses it when he realizes some martial arts kid just tied the best score from his supposedly elite mage class. Meanwhile, inside the arena, Lucas has figured out he's basically scared all the beasts into submission. This means his classmates can just waltz in and farm points with no effort. Since that's handled, he decides the only thing left on his to-do list is to lock in a perfect score. Lucas then goes on an absolute rampage, styling on every single beast and taming them effortlessly until he hits that perfect 10. Greg's jaw is on the floor when Lucas strolls out looking like a total boss with a perfect score. Julia is hyped, celebrating her brother's massive W. But low-key, she's not even that surprised, because she always knew her brother was a different breed. Julia rushes over to give her brother a huge hug, and he just pats her on the head while Greg immediately starts crying foul. He's screaming that there's no way in hell a martial arts freshman can make 10 magical beasts just give up. Greg then points the finger at Segold, accusing him of pulling some strings to rig the results. Segold is about to defend himself, but the chief examiner steps forward, staring Greg down. He asks if Greg is seriously accusing him of being a crooked official who takes bribes and fakes scores. The second Greg hears that, he realizes he messed with the wrong crowd. These examiners are definitely not people you want to have beef with. So, Greg immediately backpedals, trying to swallow his words and claiming that's not what he meant. He tries to save face by bringing up how the training dummy broke during the entrance exam when Lucas got a perfect score. He's basically saying the whole situation is kinda sus. Seeing as Greg is so concerned about the exam's integrity, the examiner suggests they go take a look at the barrier space themselves. Kai can't even believe they're launching a full-blown investigation just because a martial arts student aced the test. Lucas just tells Kai to chill, saying they have nothing to worry about, and the examiners are free to look all they want. He's got 0 skeletons in his closet after all. 10 minutes later, the examiner opens the barrier, and the beasts inside immediately try to bolt, but they're all restrained. The examiner admits the beasts are definitely spooked, but they aren't physically weakened enough to justify a do-over. Another examiner then asks the chief if it's true that Lucas got those points legit. The chief confirms he couldn't find any evidence of cheating, but no cap, he knows something weird went down with those magical beasts. Since there's nothing concrete to see, the examiner suggests they get the tournament back on track, but the 10 beasts Lucas defeated are going to be put under inspection. And with that, the examiner announces that the exam is back on. Lucas is kinda bummed that even after finding no proof of cheating, it still wasn't enough to make them actually believe he's just that cracked. He's not sweating it though, because the real show is just getting started now that Teishi and the other students are about to enter. Teishi barrels into the arena, totally hyped and dead set on not losing to Lucas. The second she's in, she goes right after the beasts, aiming to make them all bend the knee within 30 seconds. But the moment the monsters lock eyes with Teishi, they don't see her at all. They see Lucas's terrifying aura, and they start freaking out before she even lays a finger on them. And just like that, they immediately start to submit. Teishi is completely stunned that a level 3 Dark Wolf just gave up so easily, especially since she hadn't even landed a single hit. She's left wondering if this is just a wild coincidence, or if it's proof that martial arts students aren't the pushovers everyone thinks they are. It goes completely against the popular opinion. Fired up, Teishi plows through the other beasts, forcing every last one to submit, and easily snagging a perfect score of 10 points. The martial arts students absolutely lose their minds. They've just locked in another perfect score, and her time was even faster than Lucas's. The examiners are completely baffled by this and decide the defeated beasts need to be sent out for an immediate inspection. Teishi walks out with a huge grin on her face, remembering what Lucas told her about the beasts not being scary at all. This sparks a new wave of confidence in Teishi, making her believe martial artists are in no way inferior to mages. After Teishi, both Sharp and Collins also managed to get perfect scores, and the winning streak kept on going with Kai. No cap, by the time the tournament ended, every single one of the martial arts students had achieved a perfect score. This incredible performance launched them straight into the upper rankings. Even their instructor Seagull cracks a little smile, realizing all his students absolutely crushed the competition. A little while later, the headmaster gets word that there were no issues found with any of the beasts. This leaves them all wondering why the martial arts students were the only ones who got such god-tier results. The chief examiner then offers up his theory on the matter. He suggests it might be because the beasts were already spooked by the onslaught of attacks from the mage class, who had their turn right before the martial arts department. His partner chimes in that they've run this tournament for the last couple of years, and they've never had something like this happen, but he points out one crucial detail. This is the very first tournament since the martial arts department was even created, and the examiner thinks the martial artists' up-close and personal fighting style probably just maxed out the beast's fear meter. Hearing this, the headmaster suggests that to keep things fair, they'll have the martial arts department go first next year. but he makes it clear that this year's results will stand which is right when Greg busts into the room. He starts ranting that this outcome means the martial arts department will shove the mage classes out of the way, and they'll end up tying with the elite course for the #1 spot. The headmaster calmly confirms this is true, then asks Greg if he has an issue with it, to which he nervously replies no. Still, Greg keeps whining that it's completely unfair for the martial arts department to win first place on pure luck, but then Otani speaks up. Otani, who was also in the room, cuts in to say that luck is a part of anyone's overall ability. Otani tells the whole room they can't just invalidate the results because it isn't the student's fault. The headmaster totally agrees with Otani and orders the teachers to announce the official results. Greg is beyond salty about this outcome and silently swears he's not going to forget what went down here today. The headmaster then asks Otani for his thoughts on the situation, since he's a level 9 martial artist. He's gotta have some idea what the real reason behind all this was. Otani just plays it cool, saying he can't share the details, but promises the headmaster that it's not a bad development for the academy. Low-key Otani has already decided to keep Lucas's true power under wraps, figuring it's what he would want. Elsewhere, Kai and the other martial arts students are going wild with their celebration. I mean, they all just scored perfectly, so the hype is real. Lucas tries to pass all the credit to Sagawa, saying it's all because of his special training methods. This is a pretty slick move by Lucas to make sure no one starts getting suspicious of him. Kai then asks his friends what they're going to spend their first place bonus of 20 points on. Sharp says he's just going to save his points because he's still on the hook for buying Kai's meals. Kai, on the other hand, thinks the only smart move is to cash in and buy some high-level materials for next month's combat training. Lucas is low-key shook when Kai brings up the combat training. Kai breaks it down for him, explaining there's this event called Allen Tower, which is basically the school's signature trial grounds. He says inside the tower, it's a phantom world swarming with different races, like magical beasts, beast folk, and even giants. Since the creatures are just illusions, students can actually die, which makes it the perfect spot to get some hands-on fighting experience. They get to go up against a bunch of different races, which helps them build some serious real-world combat strength. The catch is only 100 freshmen can get in, and all 12 of the elite course students already have their spots locked down. This means they've got to scramble to snag the leftover spots. Kai explains that every year participants are chosen based on their taming tournament rankings, and since their whole class aced it, he's absolutely confident they're going to be chosen. Right then, Sharp and Collins get up, announcing they're headed to the material shop to buy some training gear. Seeing this, it clicks for Lucas that the martial artists are all genuinely competing to level up. This makes him even more hyped that he helped everyone lock in perfect scores during the tournament. Kai then grabs Lucas, trying to get him to come to the material shop too, but Lucas shuts him down. He flashes the pendant that Siegel gave to him. The pendant looks exactly like a beast's tooth, and Lucas says he wants to take a closer look at it. Turns out, it was a special prize given only to the first 3 students who nailed perfect scores in the tournament. Kai starts clowning on Lucas, saying, if the order was just a little different, Tashi would have gotten that pendant. Lucas just grins, saying his luck is built different. Kai then tells Lucas he's going to dip to the materials shop and link up with the others. Meanwhile, word has gotten back to the mage department that every single person in the martial arts department scored big. And you can bet they are absolutely fuming, especially the kids in Greg's class. One of the students, Lila, starts going off about their dream to stay on top for 3 straight years. Their goal was to become the #1 class right under the elites. Lila is beyond mad because her dad has poured a decade of effort into this, and that's when another student storms in. This dude is completely livid that the martial arts kids basically jacked their spots for the Allen Tower event. Another student tries to get his boys to chill, reminding them that the martial arts students didn't actually cheat. But the angry guy isn't having it, and is convinced the martial arts department bribed the examiners. The second he says this, he plants a seed of doubt in everyone's mind, making them all think it's a legit possibility. They all recall that Kai is in that department, and since his family is filthy rich, they could have easily paid off the teachers. Another student wearing glasses named Andre mentions that he just saw Sharp and Collins a few moments ago. He says the 2 of them bought up the last of the training equipment at the school's materials shop. He then tells his crew that once their department gets its 20-point bonus, they're going to start taking back all the valuable materials that should have been theirs to begin with. Right then, Lila tells her group that a martial artist's meridians are more delicate than a spider's web. She suggests they go mess with them, and moments later, the trio has Sharp and Collins completely cornered. Sharp is the first one to hit the deck, and when Collins sees the injury on his back, he immediately realizes he's been poisoned. It's bad enough to need urgent medical attention, so Collins tells the trio he'll give them all of their points. But Lila just drops him with a poison shot, telling him they aren't there for points. Collins manages to ask why she's attacking them, and Lila says she has a very simple request. She wants the two of them to crawl all the way back to the martial arts department, just like that. Lila wants them to tell their entire class that their lives are worth less than dirt under a boot. Hours pass, and Lucas and Kai are still trying to find Sharp and Collins walking around the yard and shouting their names. Lucas is starting to get seriously worried, but Kai just figures the two are just running late. However, Lucas tells him that this situation just hits different, because this is the first time he's ever smelled blood this strong on the path they're on. In that instant, Lucas's eyes lock onto the source of the blood, and he just bolts in that direction without a second thought. Kai is totally stunned, wondering where the heck his friend is suddenly sprinting off to. He chases after him, and it isn't long before they discover Collins and Sharp all beaten and bloody in a bush. A switch flips inside Lucas, and pure, unfiltered rage completely takes. He immediately starts demanding to know who was responsible for doing this to them. Lucas quickly moves to check on his friends, and with what little strength he has left, Collins manages to tell him that Lila was the one who attacked them. He says she had her goons from Greg's class with her. The second Lucas realizes their meridians have been severed, his anger just skyrockets off the charts. Kai lets out a scream, totally panicked, but Lucas tells him to chill, explaining they're still alive, just unconscious. Lucas then tells Kai to make a run for it and find medicine while he focuses on stopping the bleeding. Kai nods and sprints off, and as soon as he's gone, Lucas takes a moment to reassess just how bad things are. He figures out pretty quickly that their bones have been shattered into a million pieces. It's unmistakably the bone-crushing technique, a nasty move that's usually reserved for black market assassins. Lucas immediately vows to absolutely destroy the people responsible for using such a cruel technique on his roommates. In his mind, this wasn't bullying, no cap. This was straight-up attempted murder. Lucas can hear Sharp struggling just to breathe weakly, calling out for his mother. Lucas leans in and assures him he has nothing to fear, promising that he's going to get revenge for him. Moments later, Kai makes it back, and he's brought Tashi with him, who he bumped into on his way. Tashi is absolutely horrified to see the two guys knocked out, but Lucas reassures her they aren't in any life-threatening danger. Still, he makes it clear they're going to have to rest for several days to recover. Kai is so relieved to hear that, saying it's a good thing Lucas was there to give them first aid. Tashi, seething with anger, says she's going straight to the student council the next day. But Kai thinks it's a total waste of time, pointing out that even the teachers are turning a blind eye to everything that happens to them. Lucas just replies that he doesn't care, and as he says it, his entire expression hardens. Tashi notices the shift instantly and realizes the usually gentle Lucas has transformed into someone genuinely terrifying. With cold confidence, Lucas declares that he will personally settle this grudge tomorrow, no matter what it takes. Lucas marches right to the student council room to inform Theod that they want an official duel with students from Greg's class. Lucas lays out the terms. If they win, a public apology is required, but if they lose, they'll forfeit their S-rank bonus. Theod just casually replies, saying there's no actual proof that Greg's students are the ones to blame. He then scoffs, asking if the S-rank bonus is just that pendant before tossing it on the floor and calling it worthless. Theod then suggests they bet something a little more valuable if they're actually serious about a duel. Kai almost blows a gasket when he sees the pendant tossed on the ground like trash, but Lucas stops him from losing his cool and calmly asks Theod what he'd like them to wager instead. Theod doesn't waste a single second suggesting they put up their Allen Tower qualifications. He spells it out. The losing side completely loses their right to enter the Allen Tower. To everyone's shock, Lucas immediately agrees. Once they reached an agreement, the duel was set for 2 days later, and this news immediately spread like wildfire among the entire student body. All the freshmen who were salty about the martial arts department getting the Allen Tower slots didn't hesitate for a second to start openly cheering for Greg's class. In fact, even Greg himself was congratulating the trio who attacked Sharp and Collins, while Sigurd just stayed silent through it all. But you can bet he massively intensified their combat training behind the scenes. On the day of the big duel, the arena is already packed with students, and just as everyone expected, the vast majority of the crowd is there to support Greg's class. As usual, Lila can't help but run her mouth. She warns Lucas that with so many people watching, he should probably just back out now before his team gets publicly humiliated. But Lucas just calmly says they have no clue how this fight is actually going to go down. The ref then signals for both teams to get ready for the duel. Kai steps up first for the martial arts crew, and he's squaring off against Andre. The second the match starts, Kai goes on the offensive, rushing straight for Andre, who tries to stop him with an ice attack. But Kai just swats away every single shard like it's nothing. Andre is completely shook by this, and Kai starts trash-talking, asking if that's really the best he's got. But what Kai doesn't know is that Andre's already laid a trap for him. He's betting on the fact that Kai is not the sharpest tool in the shed. Before Kai can even process what's happening, massive ice spikes erupt from the ground, trapping him completely. Andre smirks, telling him there's no way out. He then makes the ice spikes close and piercing right through Kai's body. Blood starts pouring out as Andre gloats, saying, "This is exactly what happens when you mess with a mage." Kai is left dangling from the spikes as Andre strolls over, smugly asking if he's ready to give up yet. On the sidelines, Willa is having a field day, laughing her head off and calling Kai absolute garbage. She even tells Lucas she'll go easy on him if he just admits defeat right now. Lucas, however, gives her a death glare and asks just how long she's going to keep yapping before she's finally satisfied. Back in the arena, Andre gets right up in Kai's face, but then he freezes. He sees Kai clutching a piece of lava he snatched from that magical beast back in the mountain range. Lila sees it too and screams for Andre to get the hell out of there, but it's too late. The lava explodes in a massive blast. Andre manages to jump back just in time, avoiding any major damage, but the dude is seriously rattled. He can't believe it. Kai is so unhinged he'd detonate a lava slime jelly at point-blank range, not even caring that he'd get caught in the blast too. While Andre's still trying to wrap his head around this insanity, Kai suddenly appears right behind him and slices his underarm with a knife. Andre stumbles back, crying out in pain, but the crowd's eyes are glued to Kai because his legs are completely fried to a crisp. They're all thinking the same thing. This guy is absolutely insane for blowing up his own legs just to break free from an ice trap. Turns out this was all part of Lucas's master plan. He had already given Kai the full rundown on how to deal with Andre. Meanwhile, Andre is still fuming that some martial artist actually managed to wound him. Still, he's confident Kai's finished. With his legs totally wrecked, there's no way he can dodge another attack. Andre fires off another long-range spell, but Kai meets it head-on with a second bag of lava slime jelly, causing another huge explosion. The whole arena is covered in a thick cloud of smoke. Kai uses the smoke as cover to charge Andre, looking like a total psycho with a crazed grin on his face as he leaps towards him. From Andre's perspective, all he sees is a terrifying madman coming to end him. He screams and frantically throws up an ice barrier, but Kai just punches straight through it like it's glass. As he gets in close, Kai flashes a smile and tells Andre he despises ice mages because they always screw up in the end. Andre starts crying like a baby, begging Kai to stay away, but Kai just delivers a brutal headbutt. It shatters Andre's glasses and knocks him clean out. The guy goes flying across the arena and slams hard into the wall. Andre can't wrap his head around it. Kai just shattered his ice shield with pure brute strength. At the same time, Andre is in disbelief that he's actually losing to a simple martial artist. And with that, Kai is declared the winner of the first round. Kai limps back to Lucas, bragging about how awesome he was. Lucas tosses him a healing potion, and Kai mentions he's been feeling on top of his game all day. He has no idea why, but it's because Lucas secretly spiked his breakfast that morning with a homemade bezisu, ability-enhancing drug. Now that Kai's match is over, Tai-Shi is the next one up on stage, and she's facing off against Lila. Kai looks a little nervous, asking if Tai-Shi's going to be okay, but Lucas tells him not to worry about a thing, because as long as Tai-Shi's in the ring, she's going to be just fine. Lila's convinced Andre only lost because he was pulling his punches on Kai. You know, with him being from the Toro family and all. This just ticks Tai-Shi off, though, because she can't believe nobody's willing to admit that Kai won fair and square with pure skill. And while Tai-Shi's stewing on this, Lila pulls a fast one and launches a surprise attack. Tai-Shi dodges it like a pro, but she knows for a fact that attack would have turned her into confetti. If it had connected Lila, then starts yapping about how martial artists are all about moral principles. But she makes it clear to Tai-Shi that mages only care about one thing: results. Lila fires off another volley of attacks, but this time Tai-Shi is locked and loaded. She just plows through everything Lila's throwing and closes the distance at lightning speed. Bam! Tai-Shi clocks Lila right in the face, completely stunning her. She can't process how a level 1 is moving this fast. Before Lila can even blink, Tai-Shi's got her by the wrist, ready to teach her a thing or two about real principles. Tai-Shi puts the squeeze on her arm, schooling her that martial arts actually value human life, unlike you garbage-tier mages. And just like that, Tai-Shi unloads a flurry of lightning-fast strikes all over Lila's body, making sure to hit her meridians. By the time Taishi's finished, the whole crowd is just speechless. Lucas is low-key, impressed. He's glad she didn't let him down. Lila completely passes out on the floor, and just like that, the martial arts department scores its second W. Get this. It turns out Lila was packing poison needles, but Taishi never even gave her an opening to use them. Apparently, Theode was the one who gave her the green light. And when Mina finds out, she's absolutely livid, but Theode just brushes it off, saying no harm, no foul, since nothing actually happened. The entire stadium is in total chaos. Nobody expected the martial artist to be dominating this hard. Even the third mage who's supposed to fight Lucas is sweating bullets, because right now his side is the one getting absolutely clowned on. Still, he thinks he's got a shot because of some super risky technique he has up his sleeve. A few moments later, the third match kicks off, and Lucas's opponent immediately blitzes toward him at insane speed. Apparently, this guy is trained in physical combat, which is why he thinks he actually stands a chance. In fact, he's so cocky, he thinks Lucas won't even be able to follow his movements. Taishi notices Lucas isn't moving an inch, meaning he's playing defense instead of just rushing in. And even though Lucas isn't about to go all out, he figures he'll see what this dude's really made of. Lucas completely shocks the guy by instantly appearing in front of him with a fist aimed right at his face. Lucas deliberately misses giving his opponent just enough room to jump back. The mage then yeets his knife way off into the distance. A chill runs down the guy's spine as he feels this terrifying aura just pouring off of Lucas. But it doesn't matter, because the dude's already got a master plan in motion. He springs his trap recalling the knife he chucked earlier, and as it zips back, it slices Lucas right across the neck. But our boy doesn't even flinch. The mage starts bragging about his bone-crushing technique, claiming nobody can take a hit from it. Seeing Lucas standing perfectly still, he charges in again, boasting that he's about to shatter every single bone in his body. But just as he gets within striking range, Lucas sidesteps him like it's nothing, telling him he's not getting away with this. The dude's completely floored that his technique failed and Lucas can still move. Meanwhile, Kai's getting worried, thinking Lucas is actually in trouble, and he's thinking something seriously wrong. The opponent sneaks up behind Lucas, thinking he's got the match in the bag. But right as he's about to jam his knife into Lucas's neck for the finishing blow, Lucas snags his arm and says, "Playtime's over." And now it's finally Lucas's turn. He smashes one foot into the ground, kicking up a massive dust cloud to hide them from view. The other guy is shook when he sees the raw power Lucas can unleash with just a single leg, and now he's trapped in Lucas's range. With the dust acting as a perfect smokescreen, Lucas tells him that he can stop worrying about anyone else now. You can just see what's about to go down. His opponent, who somehow still thinks he has a shot, gets absolutely folded. Lucas slams him into the ground and pins his hand with his own dagger. The dude screams his lungs out, and Lucas coldly asks him how it feels to be on the receiving end for once, especially from the same blade he used against Collins and Sharp. Then Lucas just starts wailing on him like he's a rag doll. It suddenly hits the guy that he can't use his magic, which means Lucas's last attack completely severed his magical meridians. Realizing he's about to get beaten into a pulp, the dude immediately starts begging for his life, pleading with Lucas to stop. The dust finally settles, and with everyone watching, Lucas has no choice but to let the guy go. Greg, however, is losing his mind that his student is tapping out, yelling that he can definitely still beat Lucas. With his abilities, Segold is just disappointed in Greg, who can't even tell how seriously injured his own student is. But even so, Siegelt's worried that this whole incident is going to cause major problems for the department. With Lucas's win, the martial arts department sweeps all 3 matches, and their students absolutely erupt in celebration. As Lucas is walking back to his crew, the sore loser suddenly launches a sneak attack from behind, trying to plunge a knife right into his neck. But Lucas is built different. He pulls a vanishing act right before the guy's eyes and pops up behind him, delivering a swift chop to his neck. It's a special technique, and the second it connects, the attacker feels something vital just draining out of his body. He collapses to the ground and blacks out, his last thought being, "What the hell did he just do to me?" Lucas stands over him, asking if he really didn't think that cheap shot could be used against him too. The moment Iowa sees what happened, she completely freezes in terror, and Julia immediately notices her reaction. She asks her what's up, and it turns out Iowa actually recognizes the insane technique Lucas just used. She knows it as the Meridian Severance Technique, a legendary move straight out of the ancient texts. The thing is, no martial artist in the entire empire has been able to pull this technique off for the last 100 years. This just makes her wonder even more. Who in the world is Lucas? After the beatdown, the martial arts students are partying hard, finally earning some serious bragging rights. They're all roasting the mages, calling them cowards who have to rely on cheap shots to win. The students are now feeling totally gassed up, certain that they've got what it takes to challenge any mage to a fair fight. But then Siegelt shows up out of nowhere, telling the students they're getting way ahead of themselves. He reminds them that he's warned them a million times not to get cocky. One of the students tries to argue back, saying they also dominated the taming tournament. Sigurd immediately shuts that down, explaining that the department only won because the magical beasts were already super stressed from being worn down by attack after attack. Sigurd flat out tells them that what they got was pure luck. He does admit, however, that the duel was won through genuine skill, but he says only the ones who actually fought have that next level talent. So with that in mind, he asks the rest of the group a question. Are they okay with just leeching off the strong members for the rest of their lives? Sigald asks if they're content to stay weak and vulnerable, ready to get clapped just like Collins and Sharp. He lays it out plain and simple. They're never going to get strong if they keep living like that. As he walks away, Sigurd tells them they might as well quit right now if that's the path they want to take. Sigurd's words hit different, and the students all take a vow to grind harder and prove themselves. Lucas can't even argue with it. He knows the teacher is spitting facts. It's one thing to have confidence as a martial artist, but, on the other hand, having all that confidence with zero training to back it up is just a recipe for disaster. Later on, Siegelt bumps into Linda, who commends him, saying he's starting to sound like a real homeroom teacher. Siegelt just says he's trying to stop the kids from ending up like he did, then asks Linda what she wants. And she hands him an envelope with a full report on what happened to Lucas's opponent. Turns out the guy's meridians are completely shattered, in a spiderweb pattern, a classic sign of an ancient, forbidden technique. It's called the Meridian Crusher, and now the dude's in the infirmary writhing in agony because his access to magic has been completely shut off. It doesn't take long for the kid's father to storm the school. He's absolutely furious that his son is magically crippled for life, and demands extreme punishment for whoever's responsible, starting with shutting down the entire martial arts class. Just then, Sigurd strolls into the room, telling the father that he's totally right to demand justice. He points out that the magic Lila and her goons used during their fight is a dead ringer for the spells used to attack Sharp and Collins. Sigurd lays it all out, making it crystal clear that Lila and her cronies are the real culprits who put his students in the hospital. With that bombshell dropped, Sigurd tells the headmaster to punish Greg and his students, since they're the ones who actually broke the rules. Greg is completely blindsided, clearly not expecting Sigurd to bring up this other incident at the worst possible time. Greg immediately cuts in, telling Sigurd not to change the topic. He insists that the only thing they should be discussing is who's to blame for his student getting hit with a forbidden technique. But Sigurd calmly claps back, saying it hasn't even been confirmed that it was the forbidden technique. After all, the Meridian Crusher isn't some party trick a rookie martial artist could just pull out of a hat. The kid's father secretly agrees with Sigurd on this one. He knows there's no way a total nobody like Lucas, a kid who was literally rejected by the gods, could ever master an ancient OP forbidden technique. Greg argues back, saying that a highly advanced martial artist could definitely pull it off, and then he looks around the room. Greg points out that the only master-level martial artist in the arena that day was Sigurd himself. You could cut the tension with a knife as Sigurd walks right up to Greg, getting in its face. He tells him that if he could actually use a forbidden technique like that, he would have turned Greg into a puddle on the floor a long, long time ago. The headmaster steps in, asking Sigurd to explain what he thinks happened to Break. Sigurd's theory is simple. Karma's a witch, and her bill finally came due. Apparently, Sigurd had already grilled Lucas about the incident, and Lucas swore up and down he didn't use any forbidden moves. In fact, Lucas offered up his own theory, saying that Break had been dropping some serious cash to learn torture methods. He was buying this knowledge from assassins on the black market. Because of this, he had a rep in the underworld as a problematic noble kid who couldn't keep his mouth shut. Lucas figures that some powerhouse in the criminal underworld got scared that their secrets were about to be leaked. So, they used the duel as the perfect cover to silence Break for good. After Sigurd shares this theory, even the headmaster seems to think it's plausible, but Break's father is absolutely livid. He's pissed that the whole thing might get swept under the rug because of a rumor, and Greg chimes in, calling it baseless speculation. Sigurd just shrugs and agrees that it's a hypothesis, but then he adds that it's a hell of a lot more believable than a total beginner using an ancient forbidden technique out of nowhere. Sigurd keeps going, suggesting that this means someone capable of using that technique was definitely present, and then he looks straight at Greg. He gives Greg a little friendly advice, warning him that he might find himself in a really bad situation if he gets on this mystery person's bad side. Sigurd reminds Greg that the Meridian Crusher technique is no joke. It's a terrifying power that can permanently cripple even the most cracked mage in a heartbeat. Later, Otani hits up the library to do some research, and just as he suspected, he finds that the book on the forbidden technique was checked out recently. No cap, the hand sign Lucas used on break was the exact same one pictured in the book. Meanwhile, over at some hot springs in the mountains, a different scene is playing out. Lucas is in the middle of a gnarly healing procedure for Collins and Sharp, and the two are screaming in pain as their destroyed muscle fibers begin to regrow. Lucas knows it's excruciating, but he just needs them to tough it out a little longer. Turns out martial artists have their own brand of healing, and it's just as potent as a mage's. Days later, Holt and Catherine finally arrive in Dacktown. Holt is practically bouncing off the walls, excited to finally see their kids again. But their first stop is the Miranda estate. And as they stand at the entrance, Catherine looks like she's just seen a ghost. Holt asks if she's all right, and while she says she's fine, she admits that being there is just bringing back some old memories. Just then, her younger brother Cyan comes riding out on horseback to meet them. Catherine is just breaking down in tears because it's been way too long since she's seen her brother. You see, 10 years ago, the Beastfolk tribes went all out launching a massive attack on the Empire's borders. This kicked off a ton of wars, and everyone had to band together to fight back against the Beastfolk armies. After 3 straight days and nights of fighting, both sides were completely wrecked. It was in the middle of this chaos that the young knight commander Holt Ryan and the mage Catherine Miranda first crossed paths. After staring death in the face together, the two of them swore they'd spend the rest of their lives with each other. But plot twist, Catherine's father was completely against the marriage, which ended up destroying their family ties. This move completely cut Catherine off from any contact with the Miranda family. Cyan can't even believe that their kids actually met for the first time at the academy. Cyan then tells Catherine that their dad has heard a lot about Julia, saying she's a spitting image of Catherine from back in the day. Catherine is shook. She can't believe her father even acknowledged that Julia and Lucas existed. So, Cyan suggests that Catherine should come back home, telling her their father has always wanted to see her. Catherine gets super excited hearing this, but Cyan clarifies that when he says her, he means only her. Holt immediately picks up on what that means. He tells Catherine to just go and visit her family, especially since he's heading to the front lines anyway. Catherine wants to protest, but Holt tells her it's okay because he's just glad his wife can finally go back home. He promises to come pick her up as soon as the campaign is over. When Cyan sees this, he realizes Holt is a genuinely good husband. The guy literally swallowed his pride and secretly asked him for help, just so Catherine could patch things up with her father. Even after all that, their old man still doesn't give a damn all, because his daughter decided to marry a martial artist. Cyan just wishes that one day someone would show up and shatter society's stupid prejudice against martial artists. Back at the academy, Kai, Lucas, and Julia are hitting up the cafeteria just like any other day. The rumor that some assassin from the outside tried to take out Breck has already spread like wildfire through the school. A few minutes later, Kai dips out to bring some food over to Collins and Sharp, leaving Julia alone with Lucas. Lucas quickly notices Julia's new hairpin, and she explains that Iwa gave it to her, calling it a gift from the Miranda family. Lucas is pretty happy to hear this, and he immediately clocks that the Miranda family is trying to get on Julia's good side. I mean, it makes sense since she's a genius-level mage. Lucas then tells Julia to get along with Iwa for their mom's sake, which reminds Julia she needs to write a letter to her mother. She has to let her know that she was chosen to be the class representative. She's in the middle of writing when Mina shows up out of nowhere, congratulating her on the new position and saying she's definitely going to become a huge deal at the school in the future. Suddenly, Iwa shoots up from her seat and angrily storms out of the cafeteria. Turns out just a few minutes earlier, Iwa had gone to Linda's office to complain about Julia being appointed class representative. Linda calmly broke it down for her, explaining that Julia is better than her in pretty much every other way, which is why she thinks Julia is a better fit for the class representative role. Linda really pushed Iwa to just accept the decision. But it's obvious Iwa just can't stomach the fact that she lost to Julia yet again. As she storms out, she's dead set on proving that the teacher only picked Julia because of favoritism. Julia can tell she's absolutely fuming, and notices she hasn't been eating properly lately either. Mina then asks Julia if she's close to Iwa, and Julia replies, yeah, since they're roommates. Julia mentions that Iwa's mental magic is actually insane, having just seen it for the first time. Mina agrees, saying mental magic is super rare. But before continuing, she puts up a mute magic circle to make sure nobody else can hear what they're saying. Mina then says that when mental magic users are smart, they tend to be a real problem. The reason is that they're always incredibly difficult to handle. Mina then tries to change the subject by talking about her own wind magic. But Lucas sees right through her act and tells her to just cut to the chase and say what she really wants. Mina immediately realizes Lucas is onto her, but she figures she can still manipulate Julia as long as the girl keeps admiring her. Mina's gotta hand it to Lucas. The guy is sharp. She decides to stop beating around the bush and just asks them straight up if they know about the super sketchy place, called the Magical Beast Mountain Range right behind the school. She says there's been some kind of crazy ecological anomaly going on, deep in the forest. Mina lays it all out. The number of low-level magical beasts has plummeted, and even the magic crest leopard cubs, which used to be literally everywhere, have completely vanished. To top it off, 3 days ago, the Empire's investigation team stumbled upon a high-level magical beast's lair. Julia immediately starts tweaking, scared they've found Uru's hideout, but Lucas manages to get a lid on the situation. He fakes a cough, pulling Mina's attention away from Julia's little freakout. Lucas then casually asks Mina if she's trying to rope them into a field mission out there. He even questions how tough the mission is, and when Mina realizes Lucas is totally messing with her, she reveals the prize a whopping 100 points. The second Lucas hears that, his whole vibe shifts and he's suddenly laser-focused. He boasts that he and Julia can definitely handle it, no sweat. Meanwhile, over at the Miranda estate, Catherine is stuck in a painfully awkward dinner with her brother and their father, Soa Miranda. Her brother Seon is salty that their dad is really forcing Catherine to crash in the guest room, even though her own room is perfectly clean and ready. It's just more proof of how unbelievably stubborn the old man is. Plus, Catherine hasn't touched a single bite of her food, which makes the whole atmosphere feel like a funeral. That's when Soa finally breaks the dead silence to speak to Catherine. He mentions that he's heard about Julia's absolutely cracked skill set. Because of this, Soa declares he's ready to acknowledge her as his granddaughter, and for that, Catherine actually thanks her father. Catherine then tries to hype up Lucas, calling him an amazing martial artist, but Soa couldn't care less. Soa makes it clear the only thing the Miranda family is looking for are people with the talent to become holy archmages. When Catherine hears that, she knows it's a lost cause. Her dad is never going to change his mind about martial artists. Suddenly, an attendant bursts into the room, telling them the investigation team at the Magical Beast Mountain Range has sent an urgent update. Cyan and Catherine are both shook, having no idea an investigation was even happening in the Magical Beast Mountain Range. Soa reads the letter out loud. The team found a whole new area beneath the den, but its danger level is a total mystery. Cyan and Catherine immediately shoot up from their seats, demanding to know if something went down at the mountains. They're panicking because the academy is so damn close to that area. Their father tells them to chill, reminding them that the school has plenty of teachers and he even has his own guys there. He says nothing's going to happen to the kids as long as they just lay low at school. Soe then dips from the room, ordering Catherine to wait until the situation is handled before she even thinks about visiting her children. Catherine nods and accepts her father's command, but deep down she's worried sick about her kids. Back at the academy, Mina heads over to the mission desk to sign them up, but she's in for a surprise. She's shocked to find out the mission criteria have been changed, and she can't accept it, unless she has a team of at least 5 members. The guy at the desk spills that it was the student council president who changed the rule overnight. The official reason given was an anomaly discovered in a cave within the mountain range. The second Mina hears this, she knows exactly what's up. Theod changed the rules because he's betting she can't find enough people to join her. Lucas sees this play out and puts 2 and 2 together. Mina isn't exactly Miss Popular, so forming a 5-person team is a huge ask for her. Then it all clicks into place for him. That's why she's been buddying up to Julia since the entrance exam. Mina walks back to them looking defeated. She tells them they're probably going to have to ditch the mission. But Lucas just tells her to chill and leave the recruiting to him and Julia. Mina thanks them, but internally she's already feeling awful about using them as pawns. It's all going just as Theod planned. So Lucas hits up Kai to join the squad, and my dude is absolutely stoked accepting on the spot. Kai's hype is on another level, cause his parents just hooked him up with some seriously advanced gear. And you know he's itching to take his new toys for a spin. Julia also manages to snag Maya for the team, and when Mina sees the crew she's about to roll with, she's low-key having a meltdown. The rookie Lucas then has the nerve to ask Julia why she picked Maya over Iowa. Julia just gives a sad look, explaining that Iowa just isn't willing to hear her out right now. Even though the team is looking like a bunch of fresh-faced rookies, Mina's basically banking on her and Julia's raw power to carry them through this whole mess. She then says they need to bounce immediately, since even with acceleration magic, it's going to take them a solid half day just to reach the magical beast's lair, which no cap means they've got to get a move on. A few hours later, they finally pull up to their destination and spot the Empire survey team flag posted outside. This confirms that a team is already checking out the cave, but on the flip side, Lucas is feeling pretty good. He's just glad they didn't stumble upon Uru's cave. But then a monster pops up out of nowhere, and before Lucas can even react, Mina just zips in, slicing the beast down with her wind magic like it's nothing. They're about to chill for a sec when another one ambushes Mina from behind, charging straight for her. But Kai is built different, and he leaps in, blocking the attack with his massive shield. Kai then tells Mina to leave the front line, brawling to him and Lucas, who immediately jumps into the fray and starts wrecking a few monsters himself. He's not about to let Kai get all the glory. Kai instantly takes this as a challenge, asking Lucas if he can even handle his insane speed. While the boys are having their moment, Maya whips up a protective water barrier. She lets everyone know that she's got their backs on support duty. Mina is actually pretty impressed, seeing everyone work together so smoothly is exactly what she was hoping for. Noticing Julia has been hanging back, Mina tells her it's her turn to show these monsters what's up. So, Julia casually conjures some insane lightning barrier magic that absolutely fries every single monster flying at them. And Kai's jaw is on the floor, completely stunned by how cracked Julia's magic is. Even Mina mutters something under her breath, but when Julia asks what she said, she just brushes it off like it was nothing. Turns out Mina is starting to realize she totally slept on Lucas and his crew, because these guys are actually legit and more than ready for this fight. After they have cleared the area, Maya gets to work, healing the team, and Kai, being Kai, immediately starts simping hard, calling her a literal goddess. This gets Maya blushing, but she tells Kai not to get carried away with the praise. Though let's be real, if Lucas had been the one calling her a goddess, she would have completely lost it. She quickly shakes that thought from her head, figuring it's way better if Lucas doesn't get hurt at all. The crew then heads into the cave, and they are all floored by how massive the place is. Mina lights the way, and the deeper they venture, they see that the cavern just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Kai points out that you could probably fit a small army in a place this huge. But Lucas has a different take, arguing that the cave doesn't look natural at all. It seems like it was dug out by something. Lucas warns them that the lower levels are probably going to be crawling with magical beasts. Mina completely agrees, adding that the further down they go, the more dangerous things will get. A few moments later, a horde of goblins rushes them, but before they can even get close, Julia zaps them all with her lightning magic. Mina notices that these goblins must have been underground for ages because their eyesight is completely shot. A little later, Kai speaks up, saying he's got a big brain play because just sitting around waiting to get jumped is not the move. Kai puts his master plan into motion, and a short while later he's seen sprinting back towards the party. He's got a massive train of monsters chasing right behind him, basically luring them into a perfect kill zone for Julia and Mina. And with that, they absolutely annihilate the entire mob with ease. Maya's jaw completely hits the floor seeing this, and Lucas has to agree that the strategy is low-key genius. He starts to wonder if Kai is pulling off some kind of area of effect move. You know, the kind of AoE attacks you see all the time in video games back on Earth. This gets the gears in his head turning, making him think, wait a sec. Is it possible Kai is also from another world? Kai's whole strategy is to kite the mobs into one big group, and then the two totally cracked ladies just annihilate them all at once. Kai lets the team know this whole thing is only possible because he's rocking some seriously high-tier equipment. Then he starts clowning on Lucas. He's joking around, saying he's stealing all of Lucas's thunder. But honestly, Lucas could not care less about the spotlight. Thanks to Kai's big brain move, the team starts making some serious progress. They're just plowing through magical beasts one after another, steadily making their way toward the dungeon's core. They're so locked in that they blow right past a room that's clearly full of treasure. After a while, the girls decide to tap out for a quick break, but Kai is just having way too much fun and bolts off on his own. His goal is to round up even more enemies for them to fight. A few moments later, Kai comes sprinting back with a whole train of monsters, but to his shock, the team is nowhere to be found. What he doesn't know is that they've tucked themselves into a hidden alcove, since Kai, who has zero chill, wasn't about to let them rest. With a horde on his tail, Kai's forced to make a break for the cave entrance. Lucas, with maximum sarcasm, says they'll just have to sacrifice him. I mean, it is kinda his own damn fault. Julia even chimes in saying a little prayer for his journey to the afterlife. But Maya, completely missing the sarcastic vibe, decides to play hero, declaring she's going to save Kai no matter the cost. The others just stare at her like you cannot be serious right now. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream echoes through the cave, and Maya immediately assumes it's Kai. But Lucas is quick to shut that down, pointing out the sound came from deeper within the cave's center. Lucas is pretty damn sure the survey team just stumbled upon the dungeon boss. Mina suggests they should go investigate, but Lucas can smell an insane amount of blood coming from that direction. The vibes are not good. So Mina passes out some recovery potions to the girls, and in no time they're all back on their feet and moving out. Mina tries to reassure them, saying their power might not even be necessary, since the survey team is more than capable. They should have no problem handling whatever danger is ahead. It's not long before they come across an absolutely horrific sight. The entire survey team has been massacred. Pure terror seizes Mina, and she screams at them to retreat immediately, but then all of a sudden, a monstrous minotaur appears from the shadows, holding the survey team's leader in its right hand, and a colossal axe in its left. The beast teleports right in front of Mina, and she freezes up completely, never expecting a disaster-class threat. She never imagined a monster like this would be hiding in the cave. Mina watches helplessly as the Minotaur moves to crush her, but Lucas is already rushing forward to intercept. Lucas knows something is seriously wrong. A creature this powerful shouldn't be anywhere near this cave. Lucas shoves Mina out of harm's way, bracing to take the Minotaur's full attack, when suddenly a massive wall of ice stops the axe cold. Julia sprints over to her brother asking if he's okay and wondering who the hell just put up that ice shield. Lucas tells the group that the person who cast the shield is the same guy being crushed to a pulp in the Minotaur's hand. And bruh, the Minotaur is absolutely pissed that the soldier got in its way. The team is in awe. Even while suffering fatal injuries, this dude still managed to save them. He's just built different. The soldier uses his last breath to urge the kids to flee and summon the Imperial army, warning them that an ancient seal within the cave, it has been completely shattered. Enraged, the Minotaur squeezes with brutal force, making the man scream before he finally passes out. The Minotaur threatens to annihilate all of them, but just when all hope seems lost, the soldier miraculously regains consciousness. He unleashes a final massive ice wall, trapping both himself and the Minotaur inside. He then screams at the kids to get the hell out of there and report what's happening in the cave. Lucas is completely gutted that he couldn't save the man, but he swears that he will return and get revenge. The team immediately starts to run, but as the soldier finally dies, his ice prison weakens and the Minotaur smashes its way free. Beyond annoyed, the Minotaur prepares to devour the soldier's body for the trouble, but Julia stops it by landing a solid hit on the beast, unleashing a massive bolt of lightning, shouting that this man is a true warrior, not some bug it can just step on whenever it feels like it. Mina snags the falling soldier with her wind magic, and they make a break for the exit. But Lucas ain't running. He tells the crew he's gonna stay behind and hold off this beast. Mina's got zero faith, though, because this Minotaur is a straight-up disaster-class monster. Lucas knows she's not wrong. This is gonna be tough. And just as they're trying to book it, the Minotaur is right on their tail, smashing the cave roof and bringing the whole place down around them. Lucas spins around, ready to throw down, but Mina cuts in, declaring it's her job to keep everyone safe. As the Vice prays, Lucas is low-key impressed. He totally pegged her as some selfish brat, but turns out she's got way more guts than he gave her credit for. Julia isn't bailing either, saying there's no way she's leaving her brother or Mina in the dust. That's when Maya reveals she already blasted a message spell to Kai back at the entrance to get backup. Since help is on the way, she figures their best bet is to fight together. As they square up against the Minotaur, Mina admits they probably can't win even with all of them, but Lucas isn't hearing it and tells them they gotta have faith. Wasting no time, Lucas charges the monster first, his fist glowing with crackling chi, yelling that there's no way in hell they're gonna lose to this thing. The Minotaur roars and swings back, carving a huge crater in the ground, but Lucas is too quick and dodges it like it's nothing. Lucas closes the distance and lands another heavy hit, and Mina shouts for him to keep the pressure on. So, she has an opening to strike while it's distracted. The Minotaur is absolutely fuming that this human is such a pain in the ass, but what it doesn't see is Julia charging up a massive attack from the shadows. Once she's fully charged, she teleports right above the beast, yelling at it to stop messing with her brother. Then she unleashes a colossal bolt of lightning, frying the Minotaur so bad it lets out a deafening roar of pain. Lucas jumps on the opening, hammering the Minotaur's weak spots to keep it pinned down. With the beast trapped, Julia blasts it with a powerful spell, Thunder Arrow, and Mina follows up with her own nasty attack, Wind Cutter. The 1-2 punch is devastating. The Minotaur spits up a mouthful of blood and slams into the ground hard. But it's not over. The monster growls that once its legs heal, they're all dead meat. That's when Maya steps up, telling the beast, "Not on my watch," and hitting it with a powerful blast of water. But shocker, its legs are already healed. The Minotaur just laughs, mocking them, that a little splash of water won't do squat. Now it's even more pissed, vowing to devour them all. But Julia appears overhead again, telling the monster, it's about to learn a little lesson about what happens when you mix water and electricity. She screams that it's going to pay for what it did to those soldiers, and then she zaps the Minotaur with an insane lightning strike. Thanks to Maya's water attack, the electricity arcs through the Minotaur's entire system, hitting every single nerve. Lucas is floored when he puts 2 and 2 together and realizes the genius play his sister and Maya just pulled off. The attack is just too OP. The Minotaur can't take it and collapses to the ground completely out cold. Seizing the moment, Lucas leaps onto the Minotaur, ready to deal the final blow. But then, out of nowhere, a massive wave of dark energy erupts from its body, forcing Lucas to jump back. The rest of the team can only watch in absolute horror. In the blink of an eye, the Minotaur is standing again, looking way more menacing than it did just a few minutes ago. Back at the cave entrance, Kai feels this insane pressure radiating out from deep inside the cave. And that's his oh crap moment. He knows things have gone sideways big time. He immediately bolts to get reinforcements, praying his friends can just hold on. Back inside, the Minotaur is fully revived, and a demonic insignia starts glowing on its chest, unleashing a powerful shockwave. By the time it's done healing, the Minotaur looks like a full-blown demon, and Lucas gets it, this just got deadly serious. I mean, his ears are literally bleeding just from the monster's shockwave. Lucas spins around, desperate to check on the girls, praying they're okay. But it's bad news. Mina used every last drop of her strength to shield them, and even that wasn't enough. They've all been seriously messed up. Mina's strength completely gives out, and she just collapses on the spot. To make things 1,000 times worse, Lucas sees his sister bleeding from her head, completely out of it. That's it. Whatever restraint he had left is officially gone. He rockets toward the Minotaur with a massive chai-infused punch. The Minotaur tries to block with its hand, but Lucas is on a mission to end this thing and just shatters its entire hand like glass. But he doesn't stop there, immediately going for the monster's other hand and breaking that one too. But the creature just keeps on raging, and that's when Lucas realizes this thing is genuinely insane. It's acting like it can't even feel the pain. Unbelievably, the Minotaur regenerates both its arms, and before Lucas can react, it swings its massive axe right at him. Lucas barely manages to leap back in time, dodging a strike that would have ended him. He quickly realizes he's now coughing up blood, all thanks to that monster's insane roar. The monster actually complements Lucas's power before charging at him again, forcing Lucas to scramble around the tight space. This is a bad move though, because the Minotaur starts smashing into the cave walls. Lucas knows this is a huge problem. Those falling rocks are going to crush the girls. And just as he feared, a huge boulder comes plummeting straight for Julia, but Lucas dives in the way to block it. He manages to save his sister. The Minotaur then unleashes another deafening roar that echoes off the walls, making it even more intense. Lucas tries to brace himself, but the sound wave is so powerful, it feels like it's crushing his organs. He hacks up a mouthful of blood, which leaves him stunned and unable to move for a second. This gives the Minotaur the opening it needs, and it comes charging in to finish him off. But the creature's axe smacks right into Lucas's impenetrable defense. He counters with a heavy punch, sending the Minotaur staggering back. He tells it that it can't call him finished until it's actually managed to beat him. Lucas's punch knocks the axe right out of its hands, and he snatches it, immediately dashing toward the beast with its own weapon. Lucas roars that as long as he's breathing, it will never touch his friends. He brings the axe down hard on the Minotaur's head, making it scream in agony, but he's far from done. He just keeps hammering it with brutal vertical slashes down its body. Lucas carves it up so bad that after slicing up its front, he leaps behind it to keep going. The axe eventually shatters, but that doesn't stop him. He just starts wailing on the beast with his bare fists. The Minotaur manages to grab him at one point, but before it can even squeeze, Lucas unleashes a dangerous technique to break free. The move completely pulverizes the Minotaur's hand. At this point, the veins all over Lucas's body have turned pitch black. He looks like he's completely lost any control he had left. And yeah, the Minotaur looks terrifying, but Lucas looks way more dangerous as he dashes toward it again with a fist ready. The Minotaur, which apparently never learns, tries to block him again, and Lucas, as usual, just smashes right through its guard. He follows up with a kick to the chest that literally obliterates half of its torso. While landing blow after devastating blow, Lucas lets the monster know that he is no cap going to kill it right here and now. Lucas has zero humanity left, all control is gone. The only thing on his mind is the monster standing before him, and the absolute need to destroy it. Before the beast can even process what's happening, its entire upper body is separated from its legs, leaving it to just stare in utter shock. The beast hits the dirt hard, but Lucas has zero chill, and just keeps going to town on it, ripping it to shreds. The creature's agonized screams finally jolt Julia and Maya awake, and they're both shook to realize they're actually still breathing. Julia frantically scans the area for her brother, only to find him curb-stomping what's left of a Minotaur's corpse. And honestly, he looks like an absolute monster himself while he's at it. It hits Julia like a truck that her brother is totally losing it, and her worst fears are confirmed when Lucas just lets out this massive primal roar. Turns out that weird symbol on the monster's chest was basically pouring gasoline on the fire of Lucas's rage, making him go completely off the rails. A second later, some seriously powerful demon pops up in a place called the Hall of Wrath, bellowing that it's finally back. It's complaining about being back in this filthy world, and apparently this beast is Valsaba, the demon lord of controlled wrath. And he's seriously pissed off that the martial god clapped him back in the day. Then this demon lady, who we learn is named Gelsida, shows up in the Hall of Wrath too. Gelsida's low-key impressed that Valsaba finally woke up, and it's all thanks to the key they picked. Valsaba strolls over to his throne and asks Gelsida if this Lucas kid actually has what it takes. But Gelsida's playing it cool and doesn't give him a straight answer. So, Valsaba points out that Lucas is already fighting against Gelsida's influence, trying to break free from her control. Meanwhile, back in the cave, Lucas was on the verge of being completely consumed by his rage, literally beating the dead Minotaur into a pulp. Julia rushes in and grabs him, pleading for him to snap out of it. Maya even throws a calming spell his way, but it does absolutely nothing. Instead, Lucas just powers up for a massive attack. Maya starts screaming at Julia to get back, because it looks like Lucas is about to unleash a punch with everything he's got. As she's yanked to safety, she cries out for her big brother, and somehow her scream and her tears manage to cut through the fog of his rage. Julia and Maya can only watch completely terrified, holding their breath to see what's going to happen next. Thankfully, Lucas manages to shatter the demonic insignia on his back and finally comes back to his senses. The very first thing he does is apologize to Julia, telling her to back up just a little. Julia does what he says, and Lucas takes a deep breath before using a purification technique to purge whatever nasty influence took him over. The sheer power blasting out from his body is so intense, it completely vaporizes what's left of the Minotaur. The moment they see that Lucas is finally back to normal, Maya and Julia bolt over to him. Julia immediately asks if he's okay, and he tells her he's all good. Julia tells him just how terrified she was, and Lucas promises her it'll never happen again. Talk about perfect timing, Kai's message pops up right then, letting them know he's on his way with backup. Back in the Hall of Wrath, Gelsida tells Valsaba they shouldn't rush things because they still need to put Lucas through more trials. And by trials, she casually mentions a little something like killing Lucas's family, specifically Julia. A little later, Lucas hears a voice telling him to wake up, and he slowly cracks his eyes open. He sees his family standing right there, but when he looks around, he realizes he's definitely not anywhere he recognizes. Freaking out, he throws a massive punch to obliterate whatever's in front of him, but then it hits him. His body is moving completely on its own, and that same rage is starting to swallow him whole all over again. He screams out desperately, calling for his family, and when he finally manages to pry his eyes open for real, he finds himself lying in the school nurse's office. He just decked Kai right in the face, and Kai is in total disbelief that he just got rocked by a dude who was half asleep. Kai tells him the only reason he's not getting his ass whooped right now is because he's already injured. Lucas quickly apologizes for slugging him, and Kai just stomps off nursing a bright red nose. Once he's gone, Lucas is left wondering what that freaky dream was all about. He starts to think that maybe that weird power from the cave is still messing with his head. He can still feel that sensation of completely losing control, the same feeling that turned that dead bandit into a monster. And then it hits him hard. He really did lose himself back there, all because he let his anger take the wheel. This makes him wonder, is it even possible for anyone to keep their rage in check? Smack dab in the middle of the throwdown, Lucas is racking his brain for a way out, and he figures he should just keep someone nearby who's strong enough to stop him. You know, for whenever a big fight is about to pop off. But then it hits him that this idea is straight up trash, because the only people around during missions and training are other students. He knows damn well that it'd be way too dangerous to have them try and stop him when he's going on a rampage. He realizes the only person who can truly stop him is himself. A little later, Sigwalt is spotted heading toward the infirmary. He overhears two nurses gossiping about Mina and how badly she got hurt. The two are talking about how Mina got stuck protecting a couple of useless dead weights from the martial arts department. Then all of a sudden, Sigurd picks up on the vibe of a seriously advanced martial artist coming from Lucas's room, and the second he feels it, he dashes over there. He moves so fast he leaves a gust of wind behind him. Back in Lucas's room, it turns out our boy has finally mastered the clone technique. There are two other Lucases in the room, and he remembers reading in a book that a clone's power maxes out at half of what the original can do. So basically this means if he's got 3 versions of himself running around, their power gets split evenly, so each one of them only has 1/6 of his original strength. Lucas immediately scraps that plan and dismisses the clones because he knows that's way too weak if he ever goes berserk. But he still thinks it might buy him enough time to make a run for it. Just then, Siegel strolls into the room, and bruh, he looks dead serious. Sigel starts bringing up all the weird things that have been happening ever since Lucas set foot in the academy. After listing everything, Siegel just comes out and bluntly asks Lucas what he is and why he's at the academy. Lucas takes a beat before nervously answering him. He plays dumb, telling Siegel that he has no idea what he's talking about. Lucas says he only came to the school to learn martial arts and get stronger. In a flash, Siegel makes his move, popping up right behind Lucas, ready to chop him on the neck. But Lucas manages to block the attack just in time. Siegel gives Lucas a look that screams, "I've figured you out," and asks him what his real ability is. Lucas keeps playing dumb, asking Siegel what he means by his real ability. Deep down, Lucas knows that this Siegel guy is no joke. And it would actually be kinda nice to have someone as capable as him keeping an eye on things, but at the same time, Lucas is hesitating, and before Sigurd can make another move or ask any more questions, Catherine shows up at the door. She looks right at Sigurd and asks him who he is. It suddenly clicks for Sigurd that it's a day off, meaning parents are allowed to roam the campus freely. With a stone-cold voice, Catherine tells Sigurd to step away from her son. Julia is there with Catherine too, and she asks Lucas who this guy is. Lucas quickly takes charge of the situation, explaining that Sigurd is his homeroom teacher for the martial arts department. Lucas tells them Sigurd was just giving him some extra coaching, saying you shouldn't just charge head-on at a powerful enemy. When Sigurd hears this, he knows Lucas is throwing some subtle shade at him, and it's because he had already noticed his mother, approaching from the sound of her footsteps. Catherine seems to buy what Lucas is selling, but she suggests he should get some rest since it's a day off. Then she turns to Sigluth. She pretty much tells him it's time to leave. Sigluth realizes he doesn't really have a choice but to dip since he hasn't seen Lucas cause any real trouble yet. After Siegel leaves, Catherine reveals she had to crash at the Miranda estate because Lucas and his squad decided the next thing on their bucket list was to go risk their lives. Julia is floored to hear her mom's been in town for a couple of days. Tears start rolling down her cheeks as she tells her mother she would have loved to see her sooner. Julia then launches herself at her mother, hugging her so hard the poor woman is practically getting choked out. It gets so bad that she has to beg Lucas for help, but Lucas isn't about to get in the way of Julia having her moment. Lucas hits his mom up, asking why Holt didn't come along with her. She breaks the news that things are looking pretty grim on the front lines, and right after he dropped her at the Miranda estate, he immediately bounced to join the fight. It suddenly hits Lucas. The Miranda family is cool with Catherine returning, but Holt is a hard pass. Shifting gears, Catherine tells Lucas that his dad wanted her to give him a present for absolutely crushing the entrance exam and taking the top spot. She opens the box, and sitting inside is the legendary sword that's been passed down through the Ryan family for generations. Catherine explains that the blade got seriously damaged years ago in a brutal battle against the Beastman army, and they have never been able to get it repaired. This basically means it's not practical for a real fight anymore. But even so, it's still a priceless family heirloom, no cap. Lucas's eyes totally light up as he accepts the sword, promising his mom he'll take the best care of it. He's determined not to let his father's expectations down. Deep down, Julia is low-key, seething with jealousy, and when the other two notice, they can't help but smile. Julia catching them nearly makes her blow a fuse, but Lucas pulls her in close, patting her on the head. He reminds her that their mom spoils her the most. Just then, Catherine reveals a small box packed with beast pills. Catherine tells Lucas they're for him, but then reveals she also baked some special sweets just for Julia, and the second she sees them, she completely forgets she was even mad. She's literally jumping for joy, telling her mother how much she loves her. Catherine then produces a letter addressed to Jeremy. She explains the letter is from their dad, who also sent along some pills for Jeremy. Turns out Catherine had to play delivery person, because for once Jessica decided not to tag along with them. Julia snatches the letter and volunteers to deliver it, even though she's not exactly a fan of Jeremy. A bit later, she makes her way over to the boys' dorm. Jeremy's friends tell him he's got a visitor. Bruh, the guys are completely floored to see the genius Julia standing right there in their dorm. Once they find out Julia is actually Jeremy's sister, they start swarming him, begging him to take her on a mission with them next time. This just seriously pisses Jeremy off, and he slaps the dude's hand away from him. Jeremy storms off, radiating pure annoyance and jealousy, leaving his friends wondering what his problem is. Apparently, he's mad that in all the time he's been at the academy, his mom and dad have never visited him even once. But they show up for Lucas and even give him the treasured family sword, just because he got first place on a test. Jeremy is absolutely fuming that Lucas is getting all this love and attention from everyone. Because of this, Jeremy makes a vow that he's going to take back everything that he feels should have been his from the very beginning. Before Julia and Lucas even realized it, their fun reunion was over, and their mother had no other choice but to head back to the Miranda estate, though she planned to stay in town for a little while before leaving for good. Even though Julia and Lucas know they can't see their mother, they're just happy to have her nearby. Mina, on the other hand, was still seriously injured, but Lucas brewed a potion for her. He played it off, lying that it was a gift from the Miranda family. And because of that little fib, nobody dared to question the potion's insane healing effects. Things settled down, and 2 weeks later, the highly anticipated Allen Tower event finally arrived. As the martial arts students are getting hyped and celebrating the occasion, Sagalth suddenly appears and tells them all to quiet down. He lets them know that the tour of the tower is a mandatory part of their education, driving home how important the event is. Just as you'd expect, the moment the martial students stepped into the venue, the mages started talking trash. Kai is immediately pissed off that they're starting this nonsense again, but Lucas just tells him to take a chill pill. Lucas knows full well that not everyone is thrilled they're here, since most of them believe that they just got super lucky to even get into the academy. It's so bad, in fact, that the first-year homeroom teachers from the mage classes actually complained to the headmaster about them. Word on the street is that the Empire doesn't even need martial masters anymore. Because of this, people were demanding the martial arts department hand over their entry slots, but through all this drama, Sigult didn't even seem to break a sweat. Lucas is left wondering if Sigult has that much faith in the headmaster, or if he's hiding an S up his sleeve. A little later, Sigult gathers his students for a hype speech, telling them that it's tradition. The third years always go into the Allen Tower first to set an example for all the new students. Moments later, the third-year students get the signal to gear up and enter the tower. Turns out Jeremy is actually in the group heading into the tower, and he's totally stoked. After 3 long years at this school, he's finally getting his shot to go inside. To be fair, it's kinda his own fault, since he never managed to rank in the top 100 until this year. Julia actually shows up to cheer him on, and all the other students are buzzing that the first-year genius is there. But Jeremy doesn't even acknowledge his sister. He just gives her the cold shoulder. Julia is visibly bummed out, but plot twist, she was only there because their mom forced her to go. As the students get ready to enter, Jeremy makes a silent vow to himself that he's going to surpass Lucas. After stepping into the tower, the students are instructed to hold their magic staffs out in front of them and close their eyes. Jeremy recognizes the voice giving the commands but can't quite put his finger on where he's heard it before. And surprise, the guy in the control room is none other than Director Otani, who gathers his power to open up the tower. A brilliant golden light completely engulfs the tower, and Lucas immediately recognizes the fighting spirit of a martial artist. He's totally floored that there's a martial artist at the school who's even stronger than Sigult. That's when it all clicks. He finally understands why Sigult wasn't worried about their department slots getting taken away. It's because the only person who can open the doors to the Allen Tower is the strongest martial artist in the school. Flashback to a few weeks earlier, the headmaster had a meeting with Otani, telling him about all the complaints he'd been getting. He lets Otani know that a ton of people are demanding he revoke the martial arts department's entry passes. Trying to get a handle on the situation, the headmaster asks Otani to spill the details about this so-called anomaly. Otani just shuts him down saying he already told him there's no anomaly that could possibly harm the school. Otani then bounces from the meeting, telling the headmaster to just keep things as they are, because he'll be opening the Allen Tower as planned. And that's the moment the headmaster realizes if the martial arts department doesn't get to go in, then nobody gets to enter the Allen Tower. Back in the present, Jeremy finds himself inside the Allen Tower, quickly realizing that only his consciousness was transported there. But everything feels so ridiculously real. Even his magic staff is a perfect copy of the one he always uses. His new teammates notice him looking around like a lost puppy, since this is his first time inside. But instead of helping him out, they just tell him to quit lagging and meet them at the rendezvous point so they can get on with the mission. Meanwhile, back on the outside, Lucas has figured out he can actually sense the mental energy waves from the tower. This basically means he can see exactly what all the students are doing inside. He sees how Jeremy's teammates are treating him and realizes the poor guy is getting picked on right from the get-go. Seagold sees Lucas sitting there completely still, and he probably puts two and two together about what he's doing. He then decides it's the perfect time to explain the whole process to his own students. He tells them that when the trial kicks off, they're going to be teleported to a totally random location inside that space. He lets them know they can either fly solo or squad up with other people. But if they decide to form a team, the absolute maximum number of members is 3. He drives home the point that they have to work in groups if they have any hope of reaching the upper floors. The second Kai hears this, he automatically assumes he and Lucas are going to be a team, but Lucas crushes his dreams in an instant. He tells him flat out that he's only teaming up with Sharp and Collins. Lucas explains that based on their tournament rankings, the 3 of them will probably end up in different groups anyway, but all Kai can think about is how he's going to be all alone. A few moments later, 3 of the third-year students are suddenly ejected from the tower. All the first-year students are shook because those guys didn't even last 5 minutes in their model. So, Sigurd keeps going explaining that the phantom enemies inside Allen Tower are wild, because their strength actually scales to match the student's own power level. He warns them that a bunch of students sleep on this detail and end up getting completely clapped right out of the gate. Meanwhile, Lucas decides to peek in on how Jeremy's crew is handling things, and it looks like Jeremy has finally caught up with his teammates. They're all pushing their way to the second floor together. The moment they hit the second floor, a pack of beasts tries to jump them from behind, but Jeremy's senses are cracked, and he picks up on it instantly. He unleashes his power to snag them mid-air, setting his team up for the perfect counterattack to finish them off and rack up a ton of points. This pretty much confirms for the team that the rumors about the second floor being no joke were 100% true. Still, the squad pushes forward, mowing down a whole bunch of monsters and stacking up points by grinding super hard. After a serious grind, the team finally breaks through to the third floor. But that's as far as they get. They get knocked out on the third floor, and as they're walking out of the tower, one of Jeremy's teammates points out he's been super quiet. He asks Jeremy if he's bummed out, but Jeremy's like, no, he's actually happy. Turns out, he finally got a small taste of what his dad must feel like every time he's out on the front lines. For him, this whole experience means he's officially one step closer to reaching his father's level. A few hours later, Lucas figures out he can use his mental energy sensing to scope out what's happening all the way up to the third floor. It seems like for these trials, the phantom enemies that spawn have different traits every single time, and even the same type of monster gets a serious glow-up in power with each floor you climb. This gets Lucas thinking, what if these phantoms are based on real creatures that actually exist out in the world? If that's the case, he can't even begin to imagine how absolutely terrifying Otani's real combat experiences must have been. He's pretty sure Otani has clocked his real abilities by now, just like Sigurd did. But it's clear to him that both of them are just quietly watching him from the sidelines. This leaves him wondering if they're on his side, or if he should be seriously worried about what they're planning. Not long after, it's Mina's turn, and her group gets together to enter the tower. Apparently, the top team so far only made it to the 4th floor, so everyone's hyping up Mina's squad to match them. And Julia, being her usual extra self, jumps up and starts cheering for Mina at the top of her lungs, telling her to go crush it. But unlike Jeremy, Mina actually turns around and gives Julia a proper thank you. A teacher checks in with Mina, asking if she's healed up from her injuries, and she promises him she's back at 100%. The teacher tells her to give it her all, and the other students are low-key amazed at how well she gets along with the faculty, and even Julia. One student whispers that Mina's talent is no joke, which is how she landed the vice president spot as a second year. They all agree her skills are pretty much unmatched, except for maybe the old president, but they also know she's not exactly popular. When Mina overhears this, she just sighs, realizing they're already talking trash about her. In what feels like no time at all, Mina and her squad have already blasted their way to the 3rd floor. But they're not messing around. They blitz straight through the level, dodging any pointless fights just to get to the 4th floor as fast as possible. Lucas is watching, and he's seriously impressed they hit the 4th floor in just 30 minutes. No cap for the strongest 3rd-year group. That speed is absolutely insane. When they finally arrive on the 4th floor, they are greeted by elite beastmen that are nearly double the size of the ones they just saw on floor 3. It suddenly clicks for the team why most students get totally wiped on this floor. But instead of stopping to make some grand strategy with her team, Mina with absolutely zero chill one-shots every single monster standing in her way. As she does this, she realizes that the last mission seriously leveled up her abilities. She knows for a fact that these monsters are nothing but fodder compared to the Minotaur she faced back in that cave. After wiping the floor with the first wave of monsters, Mina casually tells her teammates she's leaving the cleanup job to them. Meanwhile, she's going to find the path to the 5th floor. As she hunts for a way out, she keeps bumping into more monsters and has no choice but to throw down with every last one of them. After a seriously tough fight, the squad finally breaks through to the 5th floor, leaving everyone completely shook. Kai is low-key impressed. It gets him wondering when he'll ever be on that level and make it to the 5th floor himself. Sigult tells him to chill out, saying there's no reason to rush things because even reaching the 3rd floor is a huge win. Sigult explains that as long as they keep grinding and leveling up their abilities, the mobs waiting for them on the 5th floor won't even be a threat. When Lucas hears that it clicks, he realizes Sigult has definitely cleared this tower before. A few moments later, Mina and her crew stumble out of the tower. And man, just from the absolutely crushed look on her face, Lucas could tell she completely failed her objective. Turns out Theo's been watching the whole show from his office this whole time. He's just clowning on Mina, thinking it's hilarious she ever thought she could surpass a prodigy like him. Later on, Lucas and Mina link up with Julia in the cafeteria, where Julia immediately congratulates Mina for snagging 1st place in the 3rd-year trial. Lucas chimes in too, giving her props, and saying she still managed to get all the way to the 5th floor. But Mina just looks defeated, admitting that she wasn't strong enough to shatter Theod's record. Julia's totally confused by this because she was sure Theod also finished his run on the 5th floor. So by all accounts, that should have been a tie. Mina clarifies that by the time she even saw the stairs to floor 6, she was already running on empty. But Theod, he actually made it up those stairs and was literally a hair's breadth away from opening the 6th floor door. Because of that tiny difference, Mina feels like she's still leagues behind Theod in stamina tactics and magic control, like she's not even in the same ballpark. Wanting to change the subject, Mina asks Julia and Lucas if they've found their teams yet, and Julia excitedly blurts out that she's teaming up with Iwa. Now, Iwa had been putting on a front, claiming she only partnered with Julia because her daddy told her to. Lucas, however, thinks the Miranda family has finally clued in to how absolutely cracked Julia is at fighting. He figures that's the real reason they're suddenly trying to get close to her. Lucas then tells the girls he's squatting up with Sharp and Collins. Julia is completely blindsided when she hears this, because she was 100% sure he'd be with Kai. Lucas explains to her that their official rankings are just way too far apart, so the system automatically put them in different groups. But even after Lucas broke it all down for Kai, the dude is still clinging to him, calling him a heartless traitor for leaving him in the dust. Sokai is left teamless, and while he's still moping about it, Tashi shows up out of nowhere. She tells Kai he should just join her team since she's still looking for one more member. The second Kai hears that he flips a switch and immediately jumps on board with Tashi's team. Over on the training ground, Siegel is impressed that everyone managed to form a team and tells them to get fired up because they all know what people are saying. He reminds them of all the trash people talk behind their backs, and Siegel suggests they use it as fuel. They need to work hard enough to make sure none of those insults ever become reality. Teishi adds to the hype, shouting that we're gonna grind so hard that nothing goes the way their haters want. The others roar in agreement, yelling that they're gonna prove to everyone that they earned their spots in the Allen Tower. Lucas can't help but be impressed by how Siegel just lit a fire under the entire team, especially with all the garbage rumors and trash talk that had been flying around about them. Siegel's pep talk hit different because the team immediately started training like their lives depended on it. Whenever they took a break from the intense training, Sigel would break down essential strategies they absolutely needed to know. In fact, he'd sometimes play the villain himself, going all out and sparring directly with the students to test. The training was beyond brutal, but not a single person complained because they all knew what they were fighting for. And then finally the day of the freshman trial arrived. A big announcement is made to the entire school. The martial arts department will be participating in the trial after all. It seems their performance in the monster taming tournament was legit enough to count as a qualifier. Alright, so the whole martial arts crew pulls up for a pep talk from Sigurd right before they dive in. He lays it out plain and simple. First thing they do is link up with their squad at the central stairs, and if they see trouble, they better run. And if they can't run, they need to fight like their lives are on the line, just so they can take at least one enemy down with them. When the mage students catch wind of this, they immediately start roasting the martial arts kids. They're clowning them, saying even their own teacher has zero faith in their skills, and they're actually hyped to see the absolute train wreck that's about to happen when the martial arts students bump into some magical beasts. No cap, they're all convinced the entire department is getting wiped off the map in under 3 minutes. But this time Kai isn't getting all heated, and Lucas is low-key pleased to see the dude has actually matured a bit. Once they're good to go, the examiner calls all 12 students to step up to the plate. Watching all of this from the shadows is Otani, and he's thinking it's finally time for the legacy left by the war god to actually serve its true purpose. With that, Lucas takes the lead, and the students march straight into the tower to face the first major challenge of their academy lives. The second they're inside, Lucas realizes everyone is just following Sigurd's game plan. Avoid all contact and make a beeline for the central stairs. So, Lucas being built different figures, he just needs to head in the complete opposite direction. Apparently the first floor is basically Goblin Con just crawling with these little monsters. They use magic to mess with your vision before attacking, but it doesn't take long for Lucas to spot exactly where the goblins are hiding. He quickly tells Sharp and Collins to hang back for a minute. He lets them know he's got to run a little experiment. He promises he'll catch up with them in a flash, then sends out a clone to absolutely clap a goblin. But just as he suspected, he gets a big fat 0 points for the kill. That's when it clicks for him. The energy signature of the phantoms in this tower is a perfect match. And for the energy he uses to create his own clones. This is a dead giveaway that the phantoms are being spawned by the same martial artist who created the tower. And since the energy is identical, he figures using a clone won't trigger any alarms. Lucas's new master plan is to leave a clone behind to act as a bodyguard for Sharp and Collins, while his real self continues to push through the floors solo. Then a galaxy brain idea hits him. What if he can disguise a clone as a magical beast? He decides to try it out. And wouldn't you know it, the thing works like a charm. His clones transform into goblins, and a wicked smile spreads across Lucas's face. He's basically just unlocked the ultimate cheat code to move around freely. When Otani sees that Lucas has already mastered the cloning skill, he's blown away by how ridiculously fast the kid learns, but he's also really interested to see what Lucas is planning to do next. He's wondering if Lucas is just going to carry his classmates and farm points for them like he usually does, because hand-holding them every single time is just going to kneecap their own development. Meanwhile, some of the other team members get cornered by 3 goblins and a giant, which is a massive issue since the most that they can handle at their level is maybe 2 goblins. Then one of the students remembers a key tip: goblins are dumb as rocks. Plus they're super slow. So the kid suggests they kite the giant and put some distance between them. This would give them a window to pick off the goblins one by one. The team doesn't hesitate and immediately puts the plan into action. They successfully bait the goblins into chasing after them. Just as one of them is about to get totally overwhelmed, another teammate dives in to help. Together, they slam into the goblin and knock it to the ground. They manage to pull themselves together, but the goblins just keep on coming. Finally, they succeed in running one of them through. And just like that, it's dead. The kids are shocked, and it hits them that Sigurd was right. If they actually cooperate, they have a real shot at clearing the first floor. Riding high on this new wave of confidence, they press. With one down, they immediately pivot to the other goblin. Watching all this from a distance is Lucas, who's been tracking their every move. And it turns out the goblin they just bodied was actually one of his clones. He's basically running this whole training op to show them that fighting can be a total blast. Just a few minutes earlier, Greg and his crew of haters were watching the martial arts team get completely surrounded by monsters. And with all the shade they throw at the martial artists, they were pretty much convinced the whole team was about to get wiped. Greg was so sure the students were just going to make fools of themselves, but then they actually pulled off the win. Watching them succeed makes Greg absolutely lose his mind. It's slowly dawning on Greg that the entire game has just been flipped on its head. Back in the tower, the martial arts kids are riding a new wave of confidence, charging at goblins with zero fear. They work together like a well-oiled machine, pushing the goblins back before landing the final blows. The moment Greg realizes those students just took down 2 advanced tier goblins, he's left absolutely fuming. Sigelt, on the other hand, is seriously impressed and uses the moment to hype up the rest of the group. The others are all fired up and cheering, but the mage class students are still coping, saying it was nothing but a lucky fluke. Suddenly, they spot a weird energy flickering out around the team that just clapped those goblins. And Siegel can't help but wonder if Lucas is pulling some strings behind the scenes again. Later, Lucas finally links up with Sharp and Collins. The two are super relieved to see him admitting they were starting to get worried. Lucas explains he got teleported way out in the boonies and asks if they've spotted anyone else. They let him know there's still one team missing, but besides them, everyone else has already made it to the rendezvous point. When Lucas reunites with his squad, he can tell they're a little worn out, but at least no one's seriously hurt. Lucas knows the goblin-slaying team will be arriving any minute now, so he tells everyone that as soon as they have a full head count, they're pushing on to the second floor. Meanwhile, on the outside, their haters are in full denial mode, refusing to admit that the martial arts department is actually crushing it right now. They're all coping hard, assuming the team is just running away from fights, and that's the only reason they reached the second floor so fast. Greg is practically grinding his teeth, trying to figure out how in the world the entire team managed to get to the second floor. It's unheard of since pretty much all first-year mage students wash out on the first floor. The way things are going, Greg knows deep down that the martial arts department is about to become a serious threat to the mage's dominance. After reaching the second floor, the team gets scattered by a random teleportation, and the destination is based on the group's performance. Apparently, the stronger your team is, the gnarlier the trial becomes. To keep anyone from getting wrecked, he sends out his clones to quickly find the rest of his classmates. His clones take the form of wolves and dash off to track down the others. Soon, Sharp and Collins catch up, asking Lucas how he's holding up. Lucas tells them the place is crawling with enemies, and to make things worse, they're all moving in packs. Sharp totally agrees, saying that it's almost impossible to avoid a fight at this point. That's when Lucas reminds them that the whole point of this trial is to get them some real combat experience. Collins is on the same page as Lucas. He points out that bailing on fights would completely defeat the purpose of even being here. Out of nowhere, an enemy drops from above, launching a surprise attack aimed right at Lucas, and the impact kicks up a massive cloud of dust. His teammates shout his name, desperate to see if he's okay. When the dust finally settles, Lucas is standing there without a scratch. He just casually tells the two that he's fine. Collins is shook that Lucas managed to dodge that, because he couldn't even sense the enemy coming. Sharp adds that if he'd been the target, he'd be dead for sure. With that, the battle kicks off. The team immediately gets into formation as they engage the monsters. After dropping one of them, Lucas tells Sharp and Collins they need to wipe out this first wave, ASAP. Because if they don't deal with them now, the main force is going to swarm and overwhelm them in seconds. All of a sudden, Collins starts freaking out because in his panic, he completely lost his dagger. While everyone's distracted, another enemy sneaks up, but Lucas manages to shout a warning just in time. Sharp blocks to the attack, but the monster is slick and yanks the weapon right out of his hand, which makes him remember what Sigurd said. He warned them that the monsters on the second floor were built completely different from the ones on the first. These enemies are way stronger and smarter, capable of launching surprise attacks and even straight up stealing their gear. But instead of being scared that his weapon got jacked, Sharp is actually hyped to teach these monsters a lesson. Suddenly, the monster gets absolutely rocked by a powerful blow. And what do you know, it turns out Sharp equipped a gauntlet before he even stepped foot in the tower. Sharp then blitzes the monster, letting it know that nobody, and I mean nobody, can touch him when it comes to pure strength. He almost lands a devastating hit, but the monster manages to leap back at the last second, dodging the strike. But this was all part of Sharp's master plan. Collins intercepts the monster mid-air and slices it from behind. While the monster is still reeling from what Collins just did, Sharp finishes it off with a brutal punch straight to the chest. And just like that, they've won the battle. Lucas is low-key impressed, giving them props for their incredible teamwork. He already handled his own monster and suggests they keep moving. Everything they do is for the glory of the martial arts department. Meanwhile, on the outside, Greg can't wrap his head around the fact that none of the martial arts students have bailed yet. He knows they should have been absolutely swarmed by monsters the second they stepped onto the second floor. So, how they're still alive is a total mystery. The mage students are already starting to cook up theories. They're saying the Allen Tower's difficulty must have been nerfed because the martial arts students are so pathetically weak. One of them, however, doesn't think that's the case, pointing out that the teachers would have been complaining by now if it were true. Back on the second floor, Lucas and his squad are tearing through monsters without a shred of fear, taking on skeleton creatures. They're also fighting off wolves and all sorts of other beasts. Even when the monsters look seriously dangerous, not a single one of them hesitates. None of the team members even thinks about backing down. Whenever someone loses sight of the enemy, their fighting a teammate is always there to cover for them. They have always got each other's backs, immediately covering any mistakes. It just goes to show how ridiculously cracked their teamwork is. A little later, Collins and Sharp start talking about how they're already feeling the fatigue set in. When Lucas overhears this, he lets out a hero's battle cry, sending a wave of energy into the two of them. This is to keep them in the fight. Apparently, it's a special technique exclusive to the Ryan family, and Lucas is confident that with it, they'll be able to clear the entire second floor together. But not long after this, a monster launches a surprise attack. It's aimed directly at Collins and Sharp. The ambush totally catches them off guard. It leaves them with absolutely no room to dodge. Just as they're about to get crushed, an arrow flies in from behind them and takes out the monster, saving their skins. It turns out the assist came from a student on a completely different team who were taking down their own enemies at the same time. This move ends up netting them a massive amount of points. Riding this high, the team starts to believe they might actually be able to make it to the third floor. Moments later, Greg realizes that every single member of the team has reached the third floor stairs, and he practically has a heart attack. Even the other teachers are buzzing about it, saying the martial arts students are moving, like they aren't freshmen at all. Before they even realize it, they're already singing Sigurd's praises. They're all wondering what in the world he taught these kids to make them so. But then a huge smug grin spreads across Greg's face, as he says not a single one of them will reach the third floor, because they're at their absolute limit. He says with total confidence that they'll have no choice but to be forcibly ejected from the tower, and just as he predicted, the students are completely gassed by the time they reach the stairs. In fact, a few of them are on the verge of collapsing, forcing their friends to literally hold them up. Collins is one of the guys who's completely gassed out, and he tells them to just leave him behind and keep pushing before Lucas can object. Then other students start hitting the deck, begging Lucas to reach the third floor for them. But out of nowhere, Sharp speaks up, reminding the team they've come way too far, and that it'd be a huge letdown if they couldn't at least cross that third floor finish line as a squad. Lucas is hyped to hear this and totally backs Sharp up, saying they're a team. He tells everyone to dig deep so they can all get through that third floor door. Fired up by Sharp and Collins, everyone agrees to use every last ounce of strength they have left, all just to reach the third floor. A few moments later, an announcement crackles over the speakers for everyone to hear. It says that all 12 students have successfully made it to the third floor. The second they arrive on the third floor, they get absolutely mobbed by monsters. The creatures start taking down team members one by one. The first group that got wiped out talks about how brutal the third floor is. They couldn't even see how many enemies were swarming them. It turns out Lucas got knocked out as well, and he had already used that experience to figure out that the third floor was the absolute limit for the martial arts department this year. He also let his real body get eliminated to avoid drawing any suspicion, but his clone is still inside the tower. That way he can support the second martial arts group and help them reach the third floor too. By doing this, the entire martial arts department would get much better scores, and he wouldn't have to be the star of the show. At the end of it all, Tashi snagged a total of 55 points. That was the highest score, while Lucas settled for a cool 43 points. It then dawns on Lucas that while he didn't stand out, he actually helped the whole martial arts department look like rock stars. When Greg realizes that every single student in the martial arts department got to the third floor, he knows they're in some serious trouble. Because pulling off a feat like that is something only the elite course department is supposed to be capable of. Greg is instantly filled with a burning need to crush the martial arts department in both points and floors cleared. Not long after the mage class enters the tower, and from the very first floor, they start going absolutely ham with their magic. When Otani sees this, he wonders if it's really that bad to lose to the martial arts department. Still, he's waiting patiently to see what kind of crazy magic the mage class is going to unleash on the second and third floors. Otani is low-key disappointed that the mages have already lost their composure right from the jump. Soon after that, reports start pouring in about the mages getting taken out. The weakest ones barely manage to scrape by to the third floor. The whole situation is quickly turning into a nightmare for Greg. Greg refuses to accept what's happening, and grabs one of the examiners, demanding to know if they secretly buffed the monsters. Right when the mage class went into the tower, but Linda steps forward telling Greg to face reality and stop embarrassing himself in front of the students. Linda says she's damn sure the tower is working properly unless he's trying to claim his own skills have gotten rusty. Greg is left completely speechless, watching in horror as Linda walks right up to Sigelt to talk with him. It turns out Linda was giving Sigelt props for his students wiping the floor with the mage class. Sigelt humbly replies that the students worked their butts off to get there on their own. He then reminds Linda that the elite class is about to go in and that she should be over there, but Linda just waves it off. She says there's no need for her to be there because she has absolute trust in her students. On top of that, she has full confidence in her class representative, Julia. Meanwhile, Julia is busy gassing up her brother, saying he could cruise to the 4th floor if he wanted. The examiner has to cut her off by telling her it's time for her and her squad to head into the tower. Lucas then cheers for his sister, telling her to give it her all and to eat her candy. The examiner thinks it's kind of weird that Lucas went out of his way just to tell his sister to eat her candy. Just as Julia pops the so-called candy in her mouth, the examiner takes a closer look and realizes, bruh, that's a magic power pill. The kind that rapidly restores your magic. The examiner is shook that Julia was given something so expensive for what's basically just a school trial, since the martial artists who can craft those pills are incredibly rare. As usual, Julia only realizes she's been tricked after she's already swallowed the pill. Deep down, Lucas knows that Julia is already stacked with plenty of magic power, but seeing as how everyone pops pills before trials anyway, he figures it's not a huge deal to give her one too. Because of this, Lucas is totally convinced Julia is about to absolutely crush this test. The second she steps into the tower, Julia's first lightning bolt hits so hard, Iowa's jaw is literally on the floor. Acting like it was nothing, Julia just flashes a smile at Iowa and casually tells her to stick close. As they push deeper into the tower, Julia just effortlessly deletes any enemy that gets in their way. This basically means her teammates get to sit back and enjoy the show with almost zero. Now, while their other teammate Derek is stoked to have Julia carrying them, Iowa is totally unimpressed and starts talking about how she could have done it. She claims that if this was the real world, she would have just mind-controlled the monsters into offing each other. Julia actually agrees with her, admitting that Iowa would be low-key terrifying on a proper battlefield. The problem is, her mental magic is useless in the tower, since these monsters don't even have a consciousness. Iowa quickly realizes the most she can really do is use her powers to ping where the enemies are. Iowa is pretty bummed out, feeling like she's just dead weight on the team. But she's also shocked that Julia isn't even complaining about her being there. As a matter of fact, Julia even gives her props for her scouting abilities. In classic Iowa fashion, she just struts past Julia, saying she'll let her have the spotlight for now. All of a sudden, Iowa comes to a dead stop. This makes Julia slam right into her back. She asks why she stopped so suddenly, but Iowa just brushes it off. But deep down, she's on edge because her senses are picking up something weird that isn't an enemy or a classmate. It isn't long before Julia's team makes it to the 4th floor, and it turns out that strange presence Iowa felt was Lucas. The teachers are absolutely losing their minds when the announcement declares that 3 freshmen have already hit the 4th floor. They start gassing up Linda, but she redirects the praise back to the students, saying it was all their skill. Lucas overhears this, and he silently agrees, thinking Julia is an absolute beast all on her own. Sure, the magic pill is giving her a power boost, but getting to the top floors, that's something that depends entirely on her actual raw talent. Since he has complete faith in his sister's strength, Lucas decides he'll just watch from the sidelines without getting involved. Julia is busy mowing down enemies when out of nowhere, 4 of them pop up behind her before Iowa can even shout a warning. She's about to get taken out when Derek comes in, clutch incinerating all of them. He then claims Julia must be tired from her earlier rampage. He offers to take care of the enemies on this floor, but even he almost gets his head taken clean off by one of the monster's arrows. He manages to dodge and then roasts all of them in one go. After clearing them out, he tries to strike a cool pose, but the girls completely ignore him and just keep walking. Iowa gives them a heads up that about a dozen enemies are charging their position at insane speeds, so they need to get moving. But right as they're about to make it across a passage, the exit slams shut with heavy steel bars. By the time they turn around, they're face to face with a giant pig-headed monster and a wolf just staring them down. Both of them look like they're ready to tear the squad to pieces. Then they look around and realize the situation is even worse. They're surrounded by a ton of these pig-headed monsters. and each one has those wolves acting as their personal attack dogs. This is a major problem because they're pretty sure that metal gate behind them can only be opened by a metal magic user. But then Iowa tells them to hold on because there might be another way out of this mess. One of the monsters immediately charges them, but Julia throws up a lightning barrier that sends the beast flying back. Iowa then explains that metal melts at super high temperatures, which puts all the pressure on Derek to get them out. Meanwhile, the monsters just keep on charging. They slam against Julia's barrier over and over again. At this point, Julia is really starting to feel the strain, but she keeps pushing. Suddenly, she spots Iowa just standing there holding her staff to her head. She's not moving an inch. Julia shouts her name, and Iowa just says she doesn't have time to explain everything. Instead, she gives Julia a perfect split-second call-out on where the next wave of enemies is coming from. Julia instantly acts on the intel and unleashes a fatal shock wave zapping the enemies before they even knew what hit them. Iowa keeps her mental magic active trying to scout out the monsters ahead. But the second she gets a read on them, she realizes this fourth floor hits different. These things are on another level. After a quick scan of the area, Iowa tells Julia to focus fire on the right flank, and Julia immediately gets to it. The only problem is, Julia's already starting to worry, because her mana pool is getting dangerously low. She tells Iowa the most she can do right now is just lock down the giant's movements. So Iowa quickly pivots, telling her to watch for an opening and take out the wolf instead, an order Julia immediately follows. But deep down, Iowa is absolutely fuming, feeling like she's dead weight, while Julia is pushing herself past her limits. With a massive lightning storm, Julia wipes out all the wolves, but can only manage to pin down the giant. She flashes this huge smile at Iowa, asking if she's finally earned the right to brag about protecting her classmates. Like the perfect class rep she is, she jokes that they can talk about it when they're back outside, and Iowa plays along. She just shoots back that Julia's already getting a big head, which gets a good laugh out of her. Then out of nowhere, a monster spawns right in their faces, shocking them both. Iowa's kicking herself for getting distracted. She didn't even see the new wave of monsters arrive, and before she can react, she gets absolutely flattened by one. As she's going down, she just screams for Julia to get out of there. Seeing how messed up things just got, Derek manages to blast open a tiny escape route just for Julia. Julia is freaking out, yelling that they have to escape together. But Derek shuts that down fast, saying it's game over if she burns through the rest of her mana here, which only seems to make the monster more pissed. This forces Derek to go all out, unleashing a freaking inferno while screaming at Julia to go. Right as Derek finally gets knocked out of the trial, he tells Iowa that protecting Julia was pure instinct, and honestly, he thinks they did a pretty damn good job. Iowa tries to act all tough about it too. She says she was just paying Julia back for saving her, and then complains that she would have carried the whole team. But you know, mental magic users are at a major disadvantage in the tower. Meanwhile, Otani is actually pretty impressed with the team's performance since they naturally fell into formation. They all moved to cover each other's weaknesses, and it was low-key perfect. Turns out, Otani is fully aware that Lucas still has a clone inside the tower, and our boy is busy speedrunning the whole thing. In fact, he's right on his sister's tail. Julia, on the other hand, is just desperately trying to make it to the safe zone as fast as she can. She's basically running on fumes at this point. She's plowing through enemies with nothing but pure grit. Not holding anything back, she's just spamming lightning strikes at anything that moves. Even though she's completely exhausted, she refuses to stop making sure her friends' sacrifices weren't for nothing. She won't let it all go to waste. Suddenly something zips right past her, and in an instant all of her fatigue just vanishes. She has no clue, but that was actually Lucas blowing past her. He just hit her with the hero's battle cry, a busted skill that kills fatigue by boosting fighting spirit. It also buffs attack and defense by 30% for 10 minutes, and Lucas is confident that's more than enough for Julia to clear the floor. Since the tower closes for good once every student has finished their trial, Lucas knows he's got to move lightning fast if he wants to explore any of the higher floors. A few moments later, he reaches the 5th floor, which is a massive underwater level. As he swims deeper, he spots a seriously nasty-looking water monster, but since his main goal is just to climb, he figures picking an unnecessary fight is a total waste of time. He ducks behind some coral to hide from the beast, and then pops out a clone of himself. He then morphs that clone into an even more terrifying monster to scare the other one away. With that little trick clearing his path, Lucas continues on his way up model. 15 minutes tick by and Lucas is still plowing ahead while his sister is giving it her all, pushing herself to the absolute limit. After a grueling 20 minutes, Julia finally stumbles into the tower's safe zone, letting out a massive sigh of relief. Right at that moment, Lucas himself breaks through to the 6th floor. But the second he sets foot inside, he finds himself standing in a total void. Lucas is low-key shook that there are absolutely zero monsters on the 6th floor. The only thing here is this strange-looking monument. As Lucas cautiously approaches it, he starts to realize something. It's literally sucking up his fighting spirit. This makes the monument go wild, erupting in a golden glow that shows off Mars's weapon. Meanwhile, Otani is straight up impressed that Lucas actually managed to get to the 6th floor. Peering at the monument, Otani pieces it together. That's the legendary legacy of the martial god. But the whole situation is looking pretty grim, because Julia is just about to hit her breaking point. The second she taps out, the entire tower is going to shut down with her. As Lucas gazes into the monument, he's hit with a vision of Mars throwing down with some gigantic entity. This thing is pretty much the poster child for pure evil. The evil being taunts Mars, saying he might have gotten the W last time, but it's not over. Apparently, they have already planted their nasty little seeds all over the world. The creature boasts that even if it takes tens of thousands of years, they'll be back for a rematch. But Mars, who has absolutely zero chill, completely ignores the monologue and just powers up his ultimate move. He unleashes Destruction Fang, yeeting the guy straight into oblivion with a single punch. Lucas snaps back to reality, sweat pouring down his face, wondering if he just witnessed one of the martial gods' past throwdowns. He doesn't know when any of this went down, but he definitely remembers that talk about seeds being left behind. The gears in Lucas's head start turning, and he realizes that the monsters like that Minotaur and those zombie-like creatures might actually be the seeds that evil dude was talking about. No cap. Lucas puts his hand on the monument to get a closer look, but his spidey senses go off. He feels an attack coming from behind. With his cracked reflexes, he dodges backward only to realize the attack wasn't even aimed at him. Bruh, the enemy was gunning for the monument the whole time. In a flash, Lucas is suddenly outside the tower, and it hits him. Julia must have finally tapped out. With the monument gone too, Lucas figures there's literally no reason for him to ever go back into Allen Tower. But then he notices something feels different inside him, and he knows exactly why. It's because he witnessed the martial god's ultimate technique firsthand. Now that Julia's out, an announcement goes out to all the students. The trial is officially over and the tower is being sealed. Julia gets a massive round of applause because, get this, she's the first freshman in history to ever reach the 5th floor. When Otani gets back to the library, he finds the headmaster is already there waiting for him. The headmaster immediately asks him what went down during the Allen Tower trial. Otani just plays it cool and says nothing out of the ordinary happened. But the headmaster isn't buying it, pointing out that the mage class freshmen's poor results are seriously abnormal. He's talking about the fact that a whole bunch of students didn't even score a single point. Otani calmly replies that yes, 18 students ended up with 0 points. He points out that last year had 12, so technically it's still within the margin of error. The headmaster shoots that down, arguing that the number of students who even made it to the 2nd floor is a measly half of what it was last year. Otani just tells the headmaster to go ask Greg and his buddies about it, adding that he'd also love to know how they managed to teach their students to completely fall apart at the first sign of trouble. Then Otani drops a bomb, telling the headmaster he was so focused on the mages that he didn't even notice the real anomaly, the one happening in the martial arts department. The headmaster is completely floored by this and asks Otani what he means, model. So something wild is happening over in the martial arts department. Otani drops a bombshell, revealing that after the trial, 4 martial arts students have straight up shattered their innate limitations. And right now, they're actually trying to level up. In fact, Sigurd is in there giving them a hand with the whole process. The headmaster is completely shook to hear this, because if he's understanding correctly, this could mean the Allen Tower has a secret effect. A cheat code that basically skyrockets a martial artist's growth and power. He instantly knows it'll be absolute pandemonium if word of this ever gets out, because there are just so many martial artists out there. All of them are beyond desperate for a chance to rank up. Deep down, the headmaster knows he would have shut the whole Allen Tower trial down if it wasn't for one thing. They were actively headhunting for a seriously gifted martial artist to be the tower's next administrator. The headmaster quickly tells Otani to keep this information under wraps. And Otani's like, say less, promising to keep it on the down low. Meanwhile, the mage freshmen are hyped that the new record holder is one of their own, Julia. They're stoked to have her on Team Mage, but they're also kinda disappointed that her brother is a martial artist. Jeremy happens to walk by as 2 students are trash-talking, and he gets seriously ticked off about it, because no matter what, Lucas always seems to steal the spotlight. He can't even process the fact that Lucas is Julia's actual brother. Later, when Theodore strolls into the cafeteria, the students start cheering for him like always, and he's just soaking it in, thinking he's still the undisputed king of the school, even with Julia smashing his old record. But then his ego's worst nightmare becomes a reality when everyone in the room spots Julia sitting at a table. And just like that, they all turn their backs on him. Theodore immediately loses all of his composure. He zips right over to Julia's table to tell her that, yeah, she might be good, but she shouldn't get a big head. Just because she managed to reach the 5th floor of the Allen Tower doesn't make her special. Julia is completely unbothered, not even hearing a word that the guy is saying, because she's way more invested in her lunch. Theodore is about to lay it on thicker when he notices that all the students are now swarming around Julia like she's a celebrity. Annoyed beyond belief, he flies off shouting that she's going to regret this. Julia is just sitting there totally confused, asking her brother what that dude's problem is. Lucas just tells her not to even sweat it and to just keep on eating. What Theo didn't know was that his little intimidation stunt was a total flop because Lucas had his battle cry skill active the entire time. It was giving Julia a massive defense boost. Mina shows up a moment later commenting on how weird it is for Theodore to leave without dropping his signature catchphrase. Mina then gives Julia her props, saying she's way more talented than she ever imagined. Julia, being super humble, just says she only got that far because her teammates had her back. Mina then wonders aloud if Derek and Iowa will be just as useful for the Goddess Memorial Festival. This is the first Lucas and Julia are hearing about it, and they have no clue what this Goddess Memorial thing is. So Mina breaks it down for them. Their school, along with Kyoto Magic School and Holy Magic School, are considered the Empire's Big 3 magic academies. Each year, 9 of the most cracked freshmen are chosen from all 3 schools to battle it out and see who the true top genius is. And since Julia is built different, Mina is positive that she'll be one of the competitors. When Lucas hears this, he admits it sounds pretty lit, but he's not sure if Julia would even be into it. A little while later, Lucas tells Julia he's done being her personal alarm clock, since it's clear she's more than capable of handling herself now. The very first day of this new arrangement, Julia oversleeps, forcing her to use Thunder Dash, just to have a prayer of making it to class on time. In her haste, she ends up running straight into Iowa, who shoots her the absolute coldest death stare. Iowa just tells her to watch where she's going. By the time Julia finally makes it to the classroom, she realizes she completely forgot her textbook, as she was trying to figure out her next move. Iowa clocks this and slides up next to her, dropping her book on the table, as a non-verbal cue that they're sharing even in the dead quiet library. A bit later, Julia's struggling to grab a book off a high shelf, and before she can even ask, Iowa just swoops in and gets it for her. But before Julia could even get a thank you out, Iowa, trying to get the inside scoop, Julia later asks Lucas what Iowa really thinks of her, but he just tells her, nah, that's something you're gonna have to figure out on your own. Sometime after that, Julia spots Iowa watching an old man pull off a pretty slick magic trick using his powers. But Iowa gets totally bummed when she realizes she can't do it herself. Noticing how down she is, Julia immediately cooks up a bird with her own magic and offers it to her. But Iowa's reaction is zero chill. She straight up crushes the bird and then almost flattens Julia with her mental magic, sending the poor girl running for her life. When Julia creeps back into the dorm later that night, she finds Iowa is already passed out. But she'd left a super heartfelt note apologizing for her psycho moment earlier and leaving some peace-offering cookies for Iowa. She even suggested they hang out the next day. This actually makes Iowa crack a smile, and she agrees to go out with Julia. So, the next day, Iowa shows up to their meeting spot early, but surprise, surprise, Julia strolls in late. Iowa's just about to go off on her for being late when she notices Julia brought Lucas along with her. Julia is totally buzzing, telling Iowa that Lucas promised he'd be their sugar daddy for the day and pay for everything. Iowa's face immediately drops. She is so not feeling this third wheel, a vibe that Lucas picks up on instantly. As if that wasn't already awkward enough, they run into Maya, who asks them what their plans are. Julia immediately shoots her shot and invites Maya to tag along, and since Lucas is going, Maya is 100% in. And just like that, their one-on-one hangout snowballs into a group trip to Dacktown's Gourmet Street. So while all the girls are getting hyped, our boy Lucas is crying on the inside, knowing his bank account is about to take a catastrophic L.